Call the meeting to order, regular town council meeting, Monday, July 8th, 2024. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Mike Joseph.
Here.
Dale Macklin.
Here.
Fran Hudson.
Here.
Ray Karen.
Here.
Adam Lint.
Here.
Lee Trahan.
Here.
And Jeff West.
Here.
Thank you. And do we have any conflicts of interest this evening? None?
I don't think so.
Okay. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting. There is two, June 10th and June 20th.
I motion to move, to amend public comment on June 10th.
And I did get the amendment emailed to me.
I'll second that motion if you need a second.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Yep.
Any discussion?
You,
The nature of.
Oh, the nature of it, I'm sorry.
sorry, hold on just one second.
We're referring to the first one.
Adam?
Or the second one. There was two.
Yeah, so,
Which one do you want to take first? Adam, which one are you taking first? The one about Brenda Lynch's emails?
Whichever one I went with in the email first.
yes, the public comment section of,
Mark and Brenda.
Okay, yeah.
there is gonna be another amendment, I spelled the name wrong, so. So Adam has asked to amend the public comment to address Mark Lint's statement on June 10th by changing the seasoned counselors who are not inclined to help the new counselors in their comprehension of the budget. Two, with the exception of one seasoned counselor, no one offered insight. And then also to change Brenda Lint's statement in the minutes, new counselors requested meetings to comprehend the budget. Two, only one senior council member tried to work with the new counselors, and that the new member had requested from the town manager and the town chair more meetings to clarify, discuss, and or adjust the school budget that had just been voted down. They were denied that request.
Any discussion?
No, all I can speak to is about that I remember about the seasoned counselor comment that was her intent, Mark's intent. So I do remember that statement, so I would obviously support that statement as what the intent was.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Audra, could we have a roll call on the amended minutes, please?
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Lee, did you hear that?
I gotta unmute him. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Lee, you gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
is that a yes or no?
I'm sorry, can you just restate what we're doing? Because I don't even know. Are we
Could
voting?
you repeat that again, please?
Sure, there's a motion to change the current minutes that state the seasoned counselors were not inclined to help the new counselors in their comprehension of the budget. That two, with the exception of one seasoned counselor, no one offered insight. And also to change the statement in the minutes, new counselors requested meetings to comprehend the budget. Two, only one seasoned council member tried to work with the new counselors, and that the new counselors had requested from the town manager that the town chair more meetings to clarify, discuss, and/or adjust the school budget that had just been voted down. They were denied that request.
Okay. And,
So do you want those minutes changed to reflect?
It's just a change in wording from what was put in the minutes, Lee.
okay. Sure. Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Ray Karen.
Yes.
Thank you. So the motion to amend the minutes for July 10th passed 7-0.
June 10th.
June 10th, sorry, we're in July. Okay, so this one is good. And then Dale, I think you have,
Well, that was a motion to amend, now we need a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended. You want to wait till the second one?
No, because they're different.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep,
so a
two
motion
separate.
to approve minutes of June 10th, 2024 as amended.
Yes,
Correct.
And
Second.
Dale, who was the first motion?
I was.
Thank you.
For that one.
And Adam.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Now, can I just make sure I'm doing this right? We have a motion to correct the spelling of,
Well, you gotta take a vote on the motion to amend the minutes, so.
but I need, that's the June 10th minutes as well?
But it's separate from this issue.
Okay, so we do two amendments? Can't we just do the amendments together and approve
It's
as,
better to separate them, isn't it, Bill?
Well, are you talking about, Mayor,
Yeah.
are you talking about two amendments to the June 10th minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Then you need to consider all amendments before you're gonna vote on the minutes as
That's
amended.
right.
Okay.
That's right,
Yeah.
so we gotta take the vote. That's
so,
right, the
but I
second one.
also have a motion, I need someone to motion to amend the spelling. I spelt Mickey Pouliot's name wrong in the minutes.
So
That's also on June
Second.
10th. Okay. And so for roll call, at least I need discussion, I guess.
I don't believe there's a whole lot of discussion on
No, I
it.
just want to make sure. Now, I'm all
Spell his
confused
name.
now. So Adam Lind,
Yes.
Jeff, Lee Trahan,
Lee,
Lee, can you hear us?
just keep on going.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes,
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Ray Karen.
Yes.
So that motion passes 6-0. And now do I have a motion from Ray, but he didn't vote, so
No vote.
there's,
Is a no vote a yes or no?
it's a no, nothing. So then now I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 10th as amended by Ray and Adam. So, Adam Lint,
Yes.
and Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
yes,
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Ray Karen.
Yes.
So motion to approve minutes from June 10th as amended passes 7-0. And then we also have the June 20th, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the June 20th?
What is that, just spelling? What is the June 20th?
The minutes from the June 20th meeting.
What are we amending? What are
We're
we-
not
Nothing.
amending anything,
Oh, you're
we're
voting
approving
through.
Yeah,
them.
Just voting
A
through,
motion
yes.
to approve the minutes of June 20th, 2024.
Thank you.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
yes,
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Ray Karen.
Yes.
So motion to pass the minutes of June 20th, 2024 passes 7-0. We have nothing under communications. On to reports of committees and commissions, the town manager's report.
Thank you, Audra. First of all, I'd like to start off by expressing my sincere appreciation for those who worked so hard at the Fort Hill Cemetery disinterment project. Trevor Tucker, who's an employee for the Public Works Department, and his staff, they ran the heavy equipment and the shovels when needed. Jason Fitch certainly stepped up and went above and beyond. He's the town's sexton. He spent 2 days on his hands and knees in grave sites. He carefully sifted through the soil to recover human remains with his bare hands for the disinterment. I observed sweat dripping off from Jason's nose as he carefully extracted bits and pieces of coffins and full skeletal remains to hand to the funeral director. The funeral director then carefully placed these people in specialized boxes. Benjamin Cafid from Lowry Brothers, he's a funeral director. He donated 2 days of his time to fill out the necessary paperwork and for each person who was removed, and assisted Jason with the removal and relocation process. Barrett Cosgrove, an environmental health specialist for the state of Maine, who assisted with the project and helped us complete the relocation in a legal and respectful manner. What was most impressive was a compassion and respectful way that all of these people used to handle the situation. The professionals who were involved with the process stated to me that they had never seen this type of situation in their careers. A total of 11 grave sites needed to be relocated due to the severe erosion. This was a big deal, and these guys were professionals, and I just can't thank them enough. Winslow Junior High, I was asked to give a little update on that. We've got the bid documents pretty much completed. We're planning on sending them out to bidders as needed. This is going to be for the abatement of asbestos and the demolition of the building. Once we have solid numbers of the cost of this project, the council will need to make some hard decisions on how to move forward. Paul is currently working with DEP to obtain the necessary information needed to move forward with the site cleanup. We're going to do that project ourselves as far as the site cleanup. The town of Winslow was awarded, as most of you know, the $6 million low-interest loan from Maine DEP and Maine Bond Bank to help with the Sunset Heights infrastructure project. That combined with the EPA $3 million grant will be enough to complete phase 1 of that project. This money will be used to replace aging sewer lines, stormwater drainage, and replace all the roads that will be disturbed. We've had a lot of construction around town lately, and this is just going to be a continuum up into the near future. But all of these infrastructure projects are because they were put into the ground at the same time. A lot of them go clay pipe, and they're collapsing, and they need to be upgraded. That's all I have.
If I might add, I wasn't here at the last meeting because I was at a KV COG meeting, and you might want to get a hold of Joel Greenwood. There's some money available for some, they call it Brownian cleanup.
Yeah, brownfield grants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
I've
so-
already been talking with them about
Okay,
that to
good,
see what's
good,
available.
okay.
There's not enough to complete the entire job, but there's some money available for it.
Good, okay.
And there's some other issues with that as well. We can't own it to qualify. We can't own the site to qualify, so we have to do something on that line.
Okay.
I have a question now. When we paid that, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, that gentleman, $45,000,
Yeah.
what did we pay back?
He's writing the bid documents that you ended up getting emails on. I've actually got copy. That was his work. He's
So he wrote up the bid documents for
He wrote up the
$45,000?
big, but that's not all he's done. He's taken care of sending it out to companies to find out about the contamination. He's been working on it.
That's what I thought we paid him for, was to
Right.
find out how much asbestos,
Right.
but we didn't find that out.
Yes, we did. It's in if there's a bid document. If you look through that bid document, it shows the amount of asbestos with the pipes and with the flooring and up in the ceilings.
Yeah,
as well.
it's been the asbestos all been documented, and all the drilling holes that needed to be drilled for the abatement of the oil to find out where it had migrated to.
Right.
There was quite a bit of work associated with that.
And he's not done with it either.
I got a question. There was some migration of the oil from the oil tank?
No, not much,
Not much
Mike.
of it?
It's contained in a small area, probably between you and I. And that's why we're gonna do that job. If it had migrated anywhere else, we would have probably had to have hired somebody else to come in. They had several test borings, and only 2 of them showed positive with contaminants, and it looks like there's an oil tank down there that's not very far from the surface that probably was forgotten about or not documented. And we think that that's where this contamination has come from.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be a big job as far as the site work goes.
So it's a lot less than what we thought it was.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if it was larger, like I said, we would have hired somebody to come in to do that, but Paul's pretty confident that he can take care of it himself, saving a lot of money in the process.
Another question I had, and going back to Sunset Heights, are we gonna be able to start that this year, or is it too late?
No, I don't think we're gonna be able to start that this year. I think you're gonna find that we're gonna end up bidding that out through the winter months and possibly looking at it for next summer, which is good because we got so many irons in the fire right now. One more project's gonna break the camel's
Okay.
back.
Thank you.
While you're on the hot seat, I might as well, I was over on the Cushman Road today. My father-in-law lives up on
Right.
Maud Street there.
Right.
I got an earful about, obviously, that
We all have.
project, and
Yeah.
do you have any idea?
Yeah, Wednesday, they're gonna have all the water drainage completed. By the time they get things cleaned up, they should be up there for about another month, so that means they're gonna be out of there probably the first week of August, but the heavy lifting is done. There's been repaving on the trenches and stuff, so that's starting to smooth out. They're on the upper end of the Cushman Road right now, and they should have that all done by Wednesday, which is day after tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I've been told a number of times, Ray, that by latest, middle of August.
Yep.
And you
they're
know,
on
Dale,
target.
you're living it over there.
Nobody likes this time of year because of the construction. There's been so much funding available, so everybody's right in the middle of it. I mean, it's, alternative routes is what I keep telling everybody. It's almost over with.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All the department reports are there as well. Is there any department heads that want to talk about their report? Do I have a motion to approve all the reports?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes?
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
and Adam Lint.
Yes.
Motion to approve all reports passes 7-0. We have no tabled business or old business this evening. On to new business. Ordinance number 8-2024. The town of Winslow to approve an ordinance for signs on town-owned property, and this is a public hearing.
Okay, is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak to this?
Can we get an explanation as to what you're talking about?
You can go ahead and read it.
So the ordinance was attached to your agenda. And the ordinance reads that the town needs to create an ordinance for the placement of signs on town-owned property. And the town council needs to set a minimum standard for the placements of signs that create visual blight, produce litter, and interfere with the use of town-owned property by the public. This order is to remediate these types of problems. And then your sign ordinance that you would have got with your agenda states where
Where
the
did
signs
it-
will be.
This is a resolution.
This
Where
is
did-
an ordinance change.
Who's bringing this forward?
Dale has asked for this to, this was discussed about it.
I'll explain it, Audra.
Okay, thank you, Dale.
This has actually been in the works for over a year, like, we go way back.
Goes back a ways, sure.
For probably a year. The biggest thing with this is political signs on town-owned property was probably the instigator of this. And as we know, every election season, there's some issues with the appropriate placement of political signs on town-owned property. A year ago, probably even longer than that, we had discussions on this and everything, and nothing was done. And every time something comes up now for an election, there are questions. So I finally figured out that, let's do something. The ordinance basically was prepared a year ago, just never came before the council. You can't discriminate between what type of signs go up on town-owned property. You can't just say, no yard sale signs, or no political signs, or no advertisement signs of any kind. It has to be everything or nothing. Bill's been through that. In fact, Bill wrote the ordinance, I believe, way back when, and did the research on it. And so the intent of this is to have no signs on town-owned property, and there's a list in the packet with the ordinance of those town-owned properties. And primarily, we're looking at, from my perspective anyway, Monument Park during political season is loaded with political signs. My thoughts are that's a veterans memorial, and I don't think it should be loaded with political signs. There are other places in town, parks, playgrounds, town office, schools, whatever. So to do it, you can't discriminate against individual types of signs, and you can't discriminate against locations of town-owned property. And that's why the ordinance reads the way it's written.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
This is really common, Fran. Most of your towns have this type of ordinance for your town-owned property.
I think the only issue that I would have, and I question is, I did also, first of all, I don't think it's littering. Secondly, it's educational to people to see who's running, what they're running for. It's for a short period of time. The signs are always cleaned up immediately after elections. It's not that they're littering. And I'm speaking, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I also think that it takes a lot to tell people they can't do something on the land that they're paying for, which is town land. So I would suggest, rather than us try to figure it out, put it on the referendum in November and let the people of Winslow, they pay the taxes on land, let them make that decision. That's just my 2 cents.
Any other discussion?
I know that Garrett's here. Obviously, you've looked over the ordinance. It's enforceable?
Yeah, it would just be, yeah, it'd be enforceable.
What are your thoughts? Could you get up to the, if you don't mind, Garrett, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Here, Garrett, do you want me?
Garrett, I mean.
All right.
So it's enforceable, and you would have no problem with this as written right now?
No, it'd be no problem, and it's enforceable.
I have a question for you. Do you have to go out often to fine people for not picking up their signs afterwards? Have you ever fined anybody this year so far?
I would say mostly like we just coming into the town of Winslow. I noticed that a lot of balls have been dropped in more serious situations, which I'm addressing as of now. So I would say I wouldn't know too much about that, especially since I'm still new around those times. But as that is something that I would do and do anyways, is drive around the town if I see something that's, blocking a roadway, junk on somewhere, that is part of my thing that I do stop and pick that stuff up. But
I do notice this time of year, garage sale signs, I see them taped right in the middle of the Carter Bridge, and sometime right at where I'm coming across the bridge that's being repaired now. That obviously is.
I think it would just having this in place would just limit the fact of all of signs that aren't just a political one, but ones that just are drawn on that might not be visually appealing to an area that we're maintaining to look visually appealing for.
Yeah, like, I don't really like political signs in Monument Park. I do think that place should be kept, but I don't have a problem generally with political signs. And I think that it's always good to inform people, who's running and who's not running. It gets people to come out, I think, or to But I guess it wouldn't eliminate them from private property, just town-owned property,
Right.
so.
Would that include easements and stuff in people's front yards in the country? You would have to move your signs back far enough to be off your easement, or is that still considered
It,
a right of way?
so right here in the, number 3, it says prohibited conduct, exception, signs in right of way. So,
So your own
right there,
personal
as you got
property,
that
okay.
exception is your right of way. Yep.
But you wouldn't be able to put up garage sale signs or anything in the town of Winslow according to this?
No, you could, just, it wouldn't be able to be in any of the, properties that we own, so, the exception of is anybody's right of way that you're using, just not for the town's property.
So
as
stop
how I
signs,
read it.
places where normal people would put a garage sale sign, or
Right,
a
you'd be able
yard
to
sale
still,
sign.
yeah, you'd be conducting yourselves pretty much the exact same way, just when it comes to the, playground, Memorial Park, Halifax Park, stuff like that, would just be places you wouldn't find those things.
Through the chair, there's currently, right now at the playground, right by the 107 store, there's a sign that's on the town property that's telling kids they have free hot lunch and on what days and at what time. So those signs won't be allowed either, correct?
Just for a point, Bill, there's an exception in that, I don't have it with me, but there's an exception in that for town
In school.
Yeah,
and
which
school
is number
signs.
B under 3, yep,
And I assume that's a school program
yep,
for
for
the
school
kids for the
activities.
summer.
I don't know if it's through the school. So you're gonna allow the town to put signs where they'd like and the school to put signs where they like, but the people can't put signs where they
Well,
like.
the signs that the town puts up are basically the electronic signs that we have. That's on town property. Obviously, the town.
Except the one on the playground
do
I'm
that.
talking about,
The one
right?
on the playground, I suppose, if that's a town sign,
It's not a
town-sponsored sign.
town-sponsored
If
sign.
it's through the school lunch program,
I don't think it's through the school.
I can actually speak to that. I forget who it was, but somebody from the school did stop in earlier and asked to put one on their bulletin board. So it is, I don't remember what his position was, but it is through the school.
Okay.
Here's the exact wording on prohibited conduct exceptions, sign in right of way, Part B, exceptions. The town may place signs for town activities or on town-owned properties. And the school department may place signs for school activities on property managed by the school department. So the town may place signs for town activities on town-owned properties, and the school department may place signs for school activities on property managed by the school department. So they couldn't put, school department couldn't put signs by the 107 because that's not school department property.
Through the chair.
well, I suppose we could amend that to provide that the school, for school activities, could be on town-owned property to solve the issue with the.
Schools are a department of the town. So anything the school does is town business, technically.
But I think, yeah.
I
So
think
would
you're
that
right,
need to be
Joe.
amended, Bill?
Can I see a copy of it if you have it right there? All right, you've got it.
I mean, you don't
So
recall from
the only
memory?
question is about putting whether if the school department has a sign advertising school activities and it's on town-owned property, that's not used by the school, I think is the question. Because if it's used by the school, it's obviously,
It's not used by the school.
If I read that, I would say that the town couldn't put signs on school-owned property, but the school department could put signs on town-owned property. But I don't know.
you might want
I
to,
think Joel makes a good point, though, that the school department is a department of the town. And I have an idea that this ordinance was based on several ordinances that you probably drafted up for other towns.
yeah. If you wish, you could amend it so that it would say that when it starts out, the town may place signs for town activities on town-owned properties. And you could say, and the school department may place signs for school activities on property managed by the school department, or other town-owned property. You could, if you wanted to.
Well, that will resolve the issue, wouldn't it, though?
Mm-hmm.
If there's any confusion.
Yeah, so the school department could then, the school department, generally speaking, the school departments manage property, but it's owned by the municipality. But to avoid some confusion, you could amend it so that it would allow signs for school activities both on property managed by the school department and on property owned by the town itself. If
So
that's
if
the
we
wish.
If we just added to the end of that, the school department can put signs on whatever it says, right? You got, I guess you're the only one who's got it. Or, town-owned property. Just add that right to the end of it, or town-owned property.
If the people in the public own town property, why shouldn't they be able to use the town property that they pay taxes on and just limit it to municipalities and schools and town business? Everybody pays taxes on those properties and
There's no taxes paid on town-owned property.
Who owns the property in town of Winslow? The town?
The town
Who
owns
pays the
property.
taxes to the town?
Taxpayers too, but the
There you
taxes are
go.
not paid on
You
town-owned
could,
property.
if you want, because it's managed by the school department. And other town properties.
I don't understand, why wouldn't you just let the
If you
people
wanted to.
vote for it? It's not a big deal to put it on the
It's a
referendum, is
policy
it?
decision which one to do.
Through the chair. Why don't we just leave it the way it is? Either that, if we're gonna do anything on it, why don't we put it in referendum and let the people decide?
What do the people think? Do the people think they should decide?
Let the people decide.
It's their town.
I'm gonna move to amend the ordinance as presented to add to that clause, or other town property.
Yeah, if you're proposing to amend section 3B to add the words "and other town properties" at the end of the sentence, is that correct?
Yes.
To add, what are we adding, sorry?
So, in
Other,
it would be in the school department may place signs for school activities on property managed by the town of Winslow and the Winslow School Department.
We don't have to, we know it's Winslow.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
By the town and.
Property
school
managed
department.
by the school department or owned by the town.
So after department or owned by the town, the last part of the sentence.
We got it.
okay.
Okay, before we move any further than that, we need to have the public hearing.
I don't think we have to, Jeff, but might as well now that they know what it's all about.
What's that? I didn't hear what you said.
We have to continue the public hearing for an amendment?
sir.
Dale, can you talk
Do
into
we
your
have-
microphone?
Do we have
sorry?
to, do we have to continue the public hearing on a motion to amend? Because we want to amend it?
Have you called, are you,
We've already called the public
Okay.
hearing, nobody spoke.
right.
Well, because we were clarifying what it was.
Yeah.
Still,
Well, I
people
haven't-
can still get up.
So you
Might
ended,
as well.
you actually ended the public hearing.
No, we never started it,
Well, if you never started
because
it.
nobody,
Oh, you can
Nobody
reopen,
spoke.
you can reopen the
can
public
reopen
hearing.
the public hearing.
Yeah,
Reopen the public hearing.
if you wish.
Is there anyone that would like to speak on this?
Steve Joseph. I live on Poolin Street.
I'm sorry,
It's
what was your last name again?
Joseph.
Joseph, thank you.
It's for the kids. Think about it. They're out of school. They don't get school lunches. Come on. Wake up.
Joel Selwood, Augusta Road. I just wanted to let food for thought for people on this, because I think some of the discussion has been fairly narrow. I think it does make sense, there's some limitations, whether this is the vehicle or you choose on something else, but think about it, by not having this in place, people could put signs all over the middle of the park down there at the fort. We have nothing to prevent that. They could put signs all over the park at the top of Halifax Hill, all kinds of places. People could put whatever the signs they want up. There's nothing to prevent that. I think we're thinking a little too narrow about political signs. Maybe some of these are minor things, but I mean, we haven't had an issue with that, but that doesn't mean there won't be an issue with that. I think bringing this to light, you know, makes people understand that people could do things that they didn't know that they could do, and they might decide to push the envelope beyond what people had thought about before. But by having an ordinance, now you can limit that so that these public spaces don't get overrun with whatever that people decide they want to put a sign up about. Just a little food for thought. But I think there's some places in town that would be inappropriate for some, if not all, signs. So I think this might be an appropriate way to attack that potential. So, thank you.
Steve Susi, Sam Street. On that note, Joel, it sounds like we're trying to create an ordinance for a problem that doesn't exist. Typical government trying to squash First Amendment right. So putting up political signs, garage sale signs, any kind of sign on public property is a manner of speech. And it, like I said, it seems like we're trying to create an ordinance to squash people's free speech. So take that into note.
Anyone else?
Jeff, Dana Mitchell says, Simpson Avenue, Winslow. We elected you people to make decisions like this. Everything doesn't go to the public to be voted on. We have a lot of confidence in you guys. Come on, let this thing fly like they've got it in other towns and everything else. That's why you guys are up there. That's all I got to say.
My name is Roy Lord. I live on Frawley Street. And I can't think of anything more symbolic of a democracy than a political sign. And I think those guys that are memorialized at our park at the top of the hill would love to see democracy flourish, and wouldn't mind a bit if we had political signs all the way around the triangle there.
Anybody else?
Shelley Selwood, 1185 Augusta Road. So if we don't have an ordinance and anybody can put up a sign for free speech, you could have marijuana advertising signs at playgrounds or right here in front of the library.
Anybody else? Seeing there's no one else, we will close the public hearing.
I think the motion is on the table to amend the proposed ordinance according to what you have on your computer, Ray, or what Audra's already written down.
So the motion to amend section 3B, exceptions, the town may place signs for town activities on town-owned property, and the school department may place signs for school activities on property managed by the town, by the school department or owned by the town. Do I have a second to that motion to amend?
I'll second that motion to amend.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
No.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
No.
Ray Karen,
Yes to amend.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
and Lee Trahan.
Yes.
So the motion to amend section 3B passes 5-2. And we need a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Any discussion?
And Ray, you were
Yeah, I
first?
seconded it.
You second.
Dale,
And Dale.
I think
Oh,
Dale.
was the first. Okay,
Or
sorry.
Lee did at the same time, whichever, doesn't make any difference.
Okay,
Okay with me.
thank you. So a motion to approve ordinance number 8, 2024 as amended. Jeff?
Yes.
We have to open it as amended. Okay, as amended.
Approve as amended.
Not to approve it yet, but just the amendment.
No, we
No,
approved.
We
you-
approved the
you just
amendment,
approved
so,
the
okay, I
amendment.
just want
So
discussion
now-
again. So we'll open it up to approve, and then we'll open up discussion after, okay?
So there is a motion to approve as amended. Is there discussion on that?
Discussion on that.
Yeah, one of the things that's, in my time on the council that's been difficult is we have a public hearing and then we have the first reading that we have after we have input from the public. So I think, this is it's not a delicate issue, but it is an issue that, when you look at political signs are governed by, when they go up and when they come down are governed by the state of Maine. So there's a very time period. And I think that, like the gentleman said, is that, you want to inform your public. You want places that, even though all political signs can go on private land, I think still it is a sign of, that they should be put on public land. And I do agree with political signs on public land. I don't like them at Monument Park, but it's still something that, in my opinion, is a right to have when it's public land. So I think we need to, and then about, obviously we don't want marijuana signs at a place either, you know what I mean? So I think I need to think about how I would amend this and how I would look at this again with the public input that I have. I would be, right now, just for a month, I would be in favor of tabling this particular resolution for a month to look into some of the other areas and to, again, get input from the public. And then re-examine it in a month.
Well, it's only a first reading, Ray. We can take the first reading tonight and deal with, instead of tabling it, deal with the second reading next month. Save the whole process a month. You're gonna get the same input in the next month, whether we take the first reading or whether we.
We could do
table.
that. There's no question. We've done that in the
We've done
past
that all the time.
with issues, and sometime, we do get input, sometimes we don't get input. So I guess it would be up to each individual to get input on it. As it stands right now, I don't think I would be in favor of this, just because I think political signs could go in places in town-owned property.
Through the chair, I agree with you, Ray. I think that we probably ought to table it and see what the public tells us.
And then,
I get plenty
I
of
agree
people
with
talking.
Dana too. I think that, this is our job, we do.
Yeah.
We need to do it thoroughly. We got public input. I think we need to take that public input and look into the ordinance and come back a month. We haven't had a sign ordinance for forever, so I think waiting a month wouldn't be a bad idea so that we could investigate it and make sure we're doing the right thing with all parties and make sure we listen to people. And then some people could come back next week and give us some more public input. So that's I would make a suggestion that we table this for a month. That's just my suggestion. Or we can vote on it. I probably would vote yes, just to let it go through for the second month, but as written right now, I would not approve of this ordinance without.
Well, I would only suggest, Ray, we take the first reading tonight, second reading a month from now, and you're gonna get the same information a month from now than you are whether we table it or not.
But if it's defeated tonight, it can't come back
Can't
for a
come
year.
back for a year.
That's
Can't
right.
come back for a year, so I would
That's right.
table it. I wouldn't take that chance. You wanna take that chance on me, you can, but I was making a strong suggestion that you table it. So for a month, so that it won't have to wait a year for it to come back. That's my suggestion.
So currently, we have a motion to accept as amended.
Yep.
That motion can be withdrawn, the second motion, the second of it withdrawn.
It's also open for a motion to postpone to a particular date.
That's right.
You do that at any point.
I guess I would make the motion then to table for a month to get further information and to make sure that we have all the amended, that we don't further amend it for things that we feel that are necessary or not necessary. Just to take another month to take a look at it. Because it came up a year ago, but it's been a long time since that discussion. A lot of things have happened in that particular time period, so I would make the motion to table. I don't know if there's a second or not, but.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the motion to table? Seeing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes,
Fran Hudson,
Yes,
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
and Lee Trahan.
Lee?
Yes.
So the motion to table ordinance number 8-2024 till next month, August, passes 7-0. Now, the motion to approve as amended just
Goes away.
goes away.
Right.
Okay, order number 10-2024, authorization for the town manager to sign the 3-year contract with IAFF number 5479, representing the fire department personnel.
Thank you, Audra. IAFF stands for International Association of Firefighters. I'm proud to say that we've put together a contract that's amendable for everybody. You have actually heard about the details. What this does is authorize me to sign the contract with the firefighters, so I'm asking permission to get that project done.
We have a motion.
I motion.
A second.
Any discussion?
Just that I've very rarely heard of negotiations going as well as they do, and I personally want to thank you, Mr. Murphy, for that, and the group that, and Ella and everybody that went through that whole process after meeting in executive session. It was, I think it's a very well thought out and very well negotiated. And thank you very much for the hard work that you guys have
Thank you
done.
for saying that.
Yeah.
The teams worked well together, and you know something, I've maintained, the town of Winslow is very lucky. We've got some professional staff working for us, and, you know, Director McDade was critical in this whole process, as well as Tanya, our human resource. She really stepped up and pulled her weight on this, so I'm proud to work with all of these people.
Any other discussion? Being none, can we have a roll call on order number 10-2024?
Sure. Authorization for the town manager to sign the 3-year contract with the International Association of Firefighters, 5479, representing the fire department personnel. Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
yes,
Fran Hudson,
Yes,
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
and Jeff West.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, order number 12-2024, authorization for the town manager to sign the attached dispatch and public safety answering point services agreement with the city of Waterville for a 1-year term.
And like every year for the past few, we've been re-upping our contract with Waterville Dispatch. This is the only game in town. Part of the reason why there's an increase the last couple of years is because our PSAP services have been wound into the dispatch services. And just for those who don't know, PSAP is the the 911 service that's provided. It used to go through Somerset. So we've budgeted for this amount, so we're on target.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Being none, Audra, can we have a roll call on order number 12, 2024, please?
Or authorization for the town manager to sign the attached dispatch and public safety answering point services agreement with the city of Waterville for a one-year term. Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Bryn Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
and Mike Joseph.
Yes.
Order number 12-2024 passes 7-0. Order number 13-2024, issuance of up to $6 million of the town's general obligation bonds to finance sewer system, CSO, and water management improvements and upgrades with respect to the Sunset Heights development and additional costs to upgrade the Chaffee Brook pump station.
Thank you, Audra. You have in front of you a copy of the bond work that was done by our bond counsel. This is quite extensive. This is the same process that we used at the last one. And I'm asking for your support.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
When would be the first payment due?
Well, we got to get the loan first.
I know, but
I'm
if-
putting the application through now. I would guess probably 2026.
2026, so
Right.
not for next fiscal
Yeah,
budget.
we'll get approved before then, and we'll be able to draw down some of this money, but we won't have to pay the payments until a year goes by on
Yeah.
that. So it's going to be 2026.
And I don't mean to ask, just curious, as on a $6 million bond, I kind of got a rough idea what the.
2.5% over 30
2.5%.
years. We can do this for 30 years. The payment's going to be somewhere between 2, 3, 325, somewhere in that range. It depends on where we lock in at the interest rate. Right now, it's 2.5%. By the time we get the application in, it could go up, it could go down. A lot of it's going to depend on the presidential election.
Okay, I'm just locking in for a
Right,
future
right.
budget.
Nothing's certain right now.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
but I know. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Being none, can I have a roll call on order number 13-2024, please?
Sure. Issuance of up to $6 million of the town's general obligation bond to finance sewer system, CSO, and stormwater management improvements and upgrades with respect to the Sunset Heights development and additional cost for upgrading to the Chaffee Brook pump station. Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
and Dale Macklin.
Yes.
Order number 13-2024 passes 7-0. Resolution number 19-2024, authorization for the town manager to accept a grant from the State of Maine Department of Public Safety Maine EMS Stabilization Program to benefit the Winslow Public Safety Department.
Thank you, Audra. Before we get started on this, I'd like to congratulate Deputy Chief Murphy and his team for doing the hard work and putting this process together. The amount of this is $38,024, which is substantial. It's going to go for buying parts and pieces that we've needed to and training as well. So thank you, Mike. And we're asking for your support to accept this grant.
I think though, Audrey, I think you said resolution 19-224, should be 20-2024.
No.
No?
No,
It's not?
Amanda
Okay.
has the next one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm one ahead,
That's
sorry
okay.
about that.
I wouldn't put it past me.
No,
Do we have a
paying
motion?
attention.
Is that a move?
You moving it?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Mike, any idea where that's going?
The money, yes. So the money is going for EMS training. It'll send anybody that wants to upgrade their license level. I'm actually gonna take advantage of that and go for my paramedic license. We also can send any of the administration to classes that will help with managing an EMS service. We can buy much needed equipment. We're gonna be buying another stretcher and a stair chair for the 3rd ambulance.
You are going to?
Yes. That was part of, that was written in the initial, grant process. We have to explain what we want it for, and that was in the original, what we asked for, and we got it.
Wow, good for you.
How long will that take to get a stretcher and a chairlift?
As soon as you approve it and I have authorization, technically I could order it tomorrow.
And how soon can we get that ambulance
It
going?
depends on shipping.
So as soon as we get it, we can start on the transfers?
That's a whole nother,
Discussion.
yeah, that would be a whole nother discussion through you, I believe. But other than that, I can buy, I can get whatever I put in for the grant for, I'm authorized to buy.
I'm just wondering, if we're gonna have that, what are we using that ambulance for if we just have, and we have no transfers? What can we use
But
it for?
we're ready to go, and if we can swap ambulances out, use one for backup, take some, mileage off another ambulance for now.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Through the chair, do we still plan on using that as a transfer ambulance, or is it?
Correct.
Okay, so the
Yes,
plan
that's-
hasn't changed then, it's just a matter of us approving and setting it
So,
forward in place?
there's been a lot of questions, like, it has to go through you, I have to get your permission, because it's gonna cause, pay and overtime and whatnot. But my EMS license already states that I can do transfers as a transporting ambulance service.
Perfect, thank you.
I just need your blessing.
We're just taking this one step at a time.
Correct.
Yep.
And as myself being new to the whole transfer things, I wanna get better at it. I wanna get your answers that you're gonna ask, I wanna be able to nail those down without any discussion.
Good job, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Any further discussion? Being none, could we get a roll call on Resolution 19, 2024?
Or authorization for the town manager to accept a grant from the State of Maine Department of Public Safety, Maine EMS Stabilization Program to benefit the Winslow Public Safety Department. Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
and Fran Hudson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Resolution 20-2024, authorization for the town manager to accept a grant in the amount of $7,648 from USDA Forest Service Urban and Community Forest Program to benefit the Winslow Public Forest.
Thank you, Audra. I'd like to invite Amanda McCaslin to come up and share the details on this grant. She's the one who wrote it and captured it.
So this will go towards the town forest project. This canopy grant is very specific on what it can and cannot be used for. It'll build our entrance area with educational signage shadow boxes where we can change the information in the shadow boxes. It will have our trash receptacles, it will have the town forest rules, it will have the trail map, and it will be a nice covered shelter area that will be at the trailhead. So that's what the grant will cover. And just the next phase is we're working on another grant to finish out the trailway and help pay for the parking lot. Any questions?
No, I know you guys have done a lot of good work, and you guys keep meeting and you guys have a great bunch of volunteers and a great group. I've been to a few of the meetings, and just keep up the good work, and hopefully people, I know people go up. We went up once, and
Yeah.
very good work. Thank you for your effort.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, do we have a motion for resolution number 20-2024?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, could we have a roll call for resolution number 20-2024, please?
Or authorization for the town manager to accept a grant in the amount of $7,648 from USDA Forest Service Urban and Community Forest Program to benefit the Winslow Public Forest. Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
and Ray Karen.
Yes.
So motion for resolutions 20-2024 passes 7-0. Resolution 21-2024, the approval and adoption of the attached investment policy.
Thank you, Audra. You've heard about this several times. We're actually going to vote on it. This gives us the guidelines to invest town money. This has been vetted, as I said before, by the town solicitor, Bill Lee, and it's good to go.
Do we have a motion?
Motion for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, could we have a roll call for resolution number 21-2024, please?
Or the approval and adoption of the attached investment policy. Lee Trahan,
Yes.
Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
and Adam Lint.
Yes.
The motion for resolution 21-2024 passes 7-0. Resolution number 22-2024, the town council creates a 5-member charter amendment committee to recommend possible changes to the town charter.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Through the chair, I have a question. I guess I'm curious as to how this went from a discussion topic to currently being a resolution. Who sponsored this one?
This was sponsored by Dale.
By Dale. So again, how does it go from being a discussion that we pushed to now being a resolution when we haven't even discussed it?
We've had, it's been on the docket, on the agenda 2 or 3 times already. We discussed it once, it's been withheld. The reason I wanted it, or felt it was necessary to put it on at this time, was that the charter requires a review of the charter every 5 years. Well, within that 5-year period. Alls we're doing right here is establishing a committee that's gonna make recommendations or whatever to the council. Bill knows more about the legalities of the procedure than we do. Can you explain the procedure, Bill, on the requirement that we review the charter every 5 years?
Well, it's as simple as that. You're supposed to take a look at it a minimum of every 5 years, and you might review it and decide you don't want to make any changes at all, or you might review it and say there are some changes that would be in order. And any changes that the council may recommend have to go to the voters for approval at an election. The council does not have the authority to amend the charter itself. It only has the power to say this amendment, that amendment, whatever, will go to the voters and let the voters decide. And that's the procedure that you will follow if you're making relatively minor recommendations for changes. If the committee felt that some rather fundamental changes ought to be made in the charter, then the direction you'd be going in is to recommend the creation of a charter commission, which is an elected group, and in Winslow, I think it'd end up being about 10 people, and that, of course, has to be voted on at an election. And if so, then you have created a charter commission, which will review the charter, and of course, it may come back and its recommendations may be relatively minor, or it could come back with major recommendations. But the charter revision process, where major changes are proposed, once that charter commission is elected, it takes about a year before the charter commission will come back with recommendations. So there are two somewhat distinct ways of changing the charter. One, an amendment process for relatively minor changes. They have to go to the voters. Or number two, if the feeling is there should be some fundamental changes made in the charter, then you don't send those amendments out to the voters. You create a charter commission, and the charter commission will then look at the entire charter and come back with its recommendations, which the voters have to either approve or disapprove. And that process, the charter revision process, takes at least a year. It's a lengthy process because you're doing something rather fundamental. You're not deciding that something is going to be done within, 2 weeks versus 3 weeks, or something relatively minor. You might be talking about changing the way the government actually functions. For example, if you were going to propose eliminating the ward system, that's pretty fundamental. You don't do that by a charter amendment. That can only be done by a charter revision. If you were going to say there has to be 2 weeks' notice for a public hearing for an ordinance change versus 1 week, that's a charter amendment. You're not changing the structure or form of government. You're just changing a time period to look at the same item that you have to look at already in the charter. And where's the line between a charter amendment and a charter revision? Give me your example, and I'll give you my answer. There's only one case that's even come close to interpreting that statute, and you really have to look at what it is that's being recommended. But minor versus major is the simplest way of looking at it. This is a proposal to create a charter amendment committee, which would look at, in essence, making modest or relatively minor changes to the charter.
That would be approved by the council?
No.
No, by the voters?
Council has no power whatsoever to change the charter. If you have a charter committee, it comes back and has 5 proposed changes, you then vote to put those, if that's your wish, you then vote to put those out to the voters, and the voters will decide if they are adopted or not. And you also have to then decide when that election is going to be. I do not really recommend doing an election in June. And a community I represent did that once before, and the proposed amendments passed, but there's a separate statutory requirement that the number of people voting must equal or exceed 30% of the number that voted in the last gubernatorial election. And in the instance that I was just mentioning, about a quarter voted versus that 30% threshold. So you had all that effort, and even though it passed, and rather strongly, the effect was it was a nullity. It then was put out at a later election in November, and then of course you've got plenty of people to vote. So I don't recommend, if you're going to do charter amendments, that you have the election for them other than in November, because the voting during the June primaries or those bond matters that come up in the month of June, you don't get that many people to show up. It's just the way it is. Yes.
Couple of points, Bill. You and I have discussed this a couple of times, and you're recommended a committee no more than 5 people because of the ability to manage that. That still holds true with you?
Oh, if the council wanted to create a committee with 7 people, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
But if you got the idea, the more the merrier, no, you're gonna have attendance problems, lack of continuity.
Right.
And difficulty with scheduling to be able to get people. But then some people will say very legitimately, well, wait a minute, there are a lot of people who are interested, and they wanna have input into the charter amendment process. And the Charter Amendment Committee meets, and it invites those people to come and speak. Because you have a lot of people who might just have one idea in mind. Well, if you only have one idea in mind, you probably shouldn't be serving on the Charter Amendment Committee, because that's a lot broader than that. But you might be a very valuable player in appearing at a meeting of the Charter Amendment Committee to give your view on why you think a particular charter amendment should be considered. So I think it's important to realize, even though the committee may be relatively small, the input you receive can be very large, because anyone in the community would be entitled to appear at certain times before the Charter Amendment Committee to give their views on a particular possible amendment. And then that committee takes that into account. You have to be very careful with wording, you have to look out for duplication, there's all sorts of work that a Charter Amendment Committee does.
One other follow-up on that. Our next meeting is in August. If the council chooses to move forward and go down this path, we select our committee members at the next council meeting. In your opinion, is there enough time between August and November to have this process ready to go in front of the voters?
No.
No, it'd be another year.
Yeah.
Unless you decide to roll the dice on a June election. You'd certainly have enough time to have it on a June election,
Well,
but
that's
I don't
only for
recommend
the
it.
commission though, correct?
No,
No.
That's the committee.
no, any, whether it's any change to the charter, minor or major, ultimately has to be approved by the
By
voters.
that 30%.
And and you're gonna have to have 30% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial election appear and vote. And if it's less than that, it does not pass. Even if every single person who voted in favor, if it's less than 30%, it has not passed. And I would urge you to avoid that, because it can produce a lot of wasted time and effort that is avoidable.
I got a question for you, Bill. You mentioned something about 10 people on the committee. You said 10.
If we are gonna have an elected charter commission, if we're gonna go that process, we have a 7-member council. I think by statute, I think it ends up being a 10-member commission.
Would that be better?
Well, you only really wanna do that if you're considering making major changes to our form of governance.
Yeah, I don't think we know if we need major changes yet anyways, so.
Right, this
That's-
charter
that's what
amendment
the
committee
committee's
could come
for.
back and its recommendation could be, we think major changes should be made and you should vote to create a charter commission. That could be the recommendation coming from the committee. Now, the council's not bound by that recommendation. It's only the council that can decide that matter. But you'd be receiving input from a charter amendment committee, people who would have volunteered their time and listened to citizens, anybody who wishes to appear and speak, and comes back to the full council with its recommendations. And just to give you, again, an example of a major change would be, let's say, going to a 7-member council with, all done by wards, and you've eliminated the at-large members. That's pretty significant change. You're not gonna do that with a charter amendment, you're gonna send that out to the voters with it'd be a charter commission process. Right.
Through the chair, is this something you recommend waiting till November, December, sometime in there to start, so it gives us close to a year to go through the process, but to have it on the ballot for next November's?
Yeah, well, I don't think you can make this November, it's just not gonna be possible. If you're gonna go through this process, make sure you give enough time to do it right. And I gave you some recommendations. If everybody got an email from me, if you're going to consider creation of a charter amendment committee, there are, I think I gave you 5 different parts to it that you might wish to consider. And there are a couple of blanks in there for the council to fill in, but you need to have a very orderly process. And because when you create a committee, that committee needs to know what its mission is. It needs to know the rules it has to follow, and really you, the council, are the ones to create those rules. And then the committee will follow those rules. And you might have council representatives on that committee. That's the council's prerogative. I wouldn't recommend having it be all council. That I would think it keeps the public away from it too much. But having a couple of councilors on the committee, sure, that's good. I think it actually makes good sense. And if it's a three-member body that you create, 3 or more, it's a public body, and you give public notice of your meetings, just like you do for having a council meeting.
Through the chair, I know you said keep it to 5, and I know you were just
No,
I know you were throwing it out there, because we're 7. I think it would be better to go 7, only because if you're going to have council members, past council members, I would like to see more residents on it than council members. So I'd hate to say no to 2 people because 2 council members want to sit there. I'd rather it be more residents on the committee. That's why I would say leave it to 7. If we get a big turnout, we can at least choose the majority of the residents who are interested in being on the committee, so they can be a part of, what's going on. And I still don't understand the rush, and I still don't understand how it got to resolution, because I thought Dale was pretty much against it when we spoke about it in discussion, as was Ray. So all of a sudden, it's brought forward as a resolution, and I do have a good idea how that happened. And, I'm sorry.
I have never stated that I've been against the charter revision.
You were hesitant about it, and that's why we tabled.
Never. That's part of the charter, and you know I go by the charter. Mike brought it up first, within the 5 years. I had no idea we were within the 5 years.
We're
Not very
outside,
many-
actually, we're outside of the 5 years.
Outside, I had no
That
idea
is
when the
why
last one was.
Mike brought it up, but then.
Mike brought it up. He wanted a discussion, it was taken off the agenda once or twice.
To go over the charter
to-
so we could all have time to read
To
it.
go over it.
Right, and then we were gonna go back to discussion, but we didn't. You made a
It's not the
resolution.
council that's gonna review this charter, it's the council, it's the charter amendment committee.
But the council should know the charter.
Yes, you should know the charter.
Right, and that's why we said we
And
were
you've had-
going to push it
yes,
till we
and-
read the charter.
And I would assume everybody on this council
Well,
read
you
the charter.
assumed before you made a resolution, so before
Well,
discussion,
I
that's
would
just a little
assume-
bothersome.
I would have assumed.
I can only, yeah.
That, Ray, I have the floor, Ray.
I'm sorry.
I can only assume that most, or every counselor on this council has read the charter by now and would at least understand most of it. And taking it off the agenda because somebody wanted more time to review the charter, okay, fine. Now you look at the time frame, and Bill is exactly right. It has to be probably in a November election.
But there's no rush to do this right now. We can
The
set
rush
it
you're
up.
gonna get into is when you set these committees up and you do it. This committee will probably meet, I would be surprised if they agree to meet more than once a month. I'd be real surprised. It's all volunteers, it's all work, and there's, like you said, there's a lot of work to do when you take the charter from its initial inception, the first time you read it. There is. And these people that are gonna be on this committee, and 7, I have no problem with 7, these citizens that are gonna be on it probably haven't read the charter. They may be familiar with aspects of it, but they haven't. And they're gonna need time to get up to date on the charter. And
Well,
if they
that's what
wanna do
they're for.
research and do other things. And this process, like Bill said, it's gonna be a year-long process. It's gonna take a year to go through this process. If you don't set it up now, a year to get on the November ballot for 2025, it's gonna be all said and done by Audra when the ballots have to go out, October sometime, September. So it's gotta be done by, probably on the safe side, August of, a year from now, in order to get it on the ballot with everything done for that November election. In a year, for a committee like this, it's gonna have a lot of work to do. It's gonna take time. And probably once a month.
At some point in time.
And I'm sure there's gonna be members, I'm sure there are gonna be members on that committee who probably haven't read the charter yet. They may be familiar with certain aspects of it. They're gonna have to come up to date, up to par on it. And there maybe wanna be committees who wanna do research on certain provisions of the charter. That's all gonna take time. And these discussions should be with the Charter Amendment Committee and not with the council right now. They're the ones that are gonna make the recommendations to the council and go through that process. And that was my figuring on why to get it done and get it started now. So you'd have enough time, and there's no rush, and it's gotta be, come October next year, the rush to get it on the November ballot.
Through the chair, this is if we decide to go with a charter commission or a charter review committee. Because as a council, we can review it ourselves and then say that there's no recommendations, or is there somebody that has to look at it every 5 years
No,
outside of the council?
The council can, there's no charter requirement that you have to create a committee. It's just committees with a single mission can operate fairly effectively. The council could decide it's going to be the 7-member committee that's going to review the charter and decide if it wants to make any changes. Yeah.
How have they done it in the past every 5 years? Is it usually just the council goes through it themselves and says, hey, everything looks good, we have no issues, or is it this is a normal
It's
process?
been quite a while since the charter has been reviewed. It's been significantly more than 5 years.
I think there was one
7
in
or 8,
2018 or 19.
It was done in 2019 with the school board, school did it.
Okay, so there was just 5?
2019, it was changed the terms of the school board members. There was other changes as well, but that was 2019. It was voted in the same election, well, it happened in 2019, and then.
But I think that was the only thing that was really looked at.
I would.
But it took a while before that, I agree, and the time it takes, because it took quite a while to go
Yeah.
through that. I believe Ken Fletcher was part of that process, and Jerry Curry. I'm not sure who else
Yeah.
was on the committee. I know they were the council members on it.
Yeah, I don't think that the, sorry.
And then there was some, then they came back to, for example, the schools for some things that they were looking to change regarding these terms, as well as some other things regarding schools that took some back and forth. It takes time, so starting sooner is not a bad thing.
If I remember right, Joel, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of that charter review back then was based solely on the schools. We didn't really go over.
I think it was.
They changed those terms because it was 3 members one year, 4 members another. There was an off year, so
Right.
they changed it, so it's 2, 2, and 3.
So it matched up with the council.
Right, so they did that as far as the board members, but there was also some looking at other things regarding, budget timelines and things like that were proposed, but ultimately ended up having to be changed because they didn't agree with school law.
Right.
So whatever the commission comes up with, or the committee, in those regards, there's other things that you ought to look at before you propose them coming forward to make sure they meet law. In this case, it was school law, but I'm sure there's other things as well. So those are some of the things I was involved with that I knew about in that. I think there was maybe a few other things that were changed in that. In 2019 is when that was voted on.
Through the chair, I'd like to ask Ray, since you've been through this before, what do you think about this whole thing?
Well, I know the last time it's vague because it was mostly doing with the school. And at the time, that was one committee that I said that there was no way I wanted to touch that because of the bureaucracy of it, because of the administrative, we had to have Mike involved because the charter is like, it's a very complex, not complex, but the ramifications of changing the charter are complex. We need to look at the charter. There's no question that we need to review the charter. There's no question that the sooner we review the charter, the better off we're going to be as far as making changes. My concern is, I know that our town manager right now, with all the irons that we have in that fire right now, that I know that Mike was heavily involved in the charter and looking at the charter because in the end, you have to answer a lot of questions. So even Mike at that point had to be involved to a great degree. I'm concerned of the amount of work that a charter is needed and where we are right now in the process of where your workload is, that we add another piece of this part a much-needed piece that needs to be completed. We need to complete the charter. Dale, you're 100% right that we need to complete the charter. When's the best time? Is there a better time than others to start this work and complete it by next, where we would be a year from this November?
Right. Ray, as far as my workload goes, I'll make room for it. If this is something that needs to happen, I'll make it happen.
Audra, at the June election, what did we get for a percentage of this year? Because this was probably one of the turnouts that were the highest, do you remember?
It was 26.
20-something. I don't think it was quite 30.
It was, so,
And that was high, I mean.
and that was a
20 very
primary
high.
that brought people out, and the school issue brought people out. So that's under the best circumstances. We probably could not reach 30, so then we're looking
I
at
would
November.
very much appreciate it if it was not on this November's
It
election.
it will not, it will never be on this November's election, I can tell you that right now, so, it would never be, it would be a year from now, and when I came into this meeting, I was like, we can't add another piece to the workload that we have. But, as a town, we have a responsibility to review things on an expedient basis, and sometimes they're not convenient to all people at all times. So we need to start this commission. We need to do it at some point in time. When is the best time that we can either put it off? Can we put it off another year? I think it would be, what is other people's thoughts about when we would start the commission? I guess I would like to hear from
Well,
other
we don't even know if
councils.
it's gonna be a commission.
Yeah.
You mean committee?
Committee.
Yeah, they're very different.
Committee, a committee to look into it. When would people want to? I mean,
Take
I
a
can't
break?
think of a worse time in July and August and September. To be perfectly honest with you, is I would never want to meet during the winter, so, but, yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Something I think people need to realize, if you do form such a committee, somebody's gonna say, I think we ought to make a change in this section of the charter. Then you've got quite a bit of work to do, because that committee or some subcommittee then really needs to go out and look at other municipal charters and how they've dealt with that particular issue. In other words, there's homework that you have to do, and so, yeah, meeting once a month is probably all you're gonna be able to do. But at a meeting, it may be, okay, we wanna look at change A, B, and C here. We got a couple people who are gonna contact different municipalities, get their language, see how it's operated for them when they've had particular issues come up, and then they're gonna report back to the committee itself. And you're probably gonna do that on multiple occasions. That takes time. That is not a slow process. And don't reinvent the wheel here. If some other community has come up with some language and an idea that has worked very well for them, and we think it would make sense for us, we certainly want to talk to that community. And also, you may talk to a community, and they may have tried some language, and it doesn't work well at all, and they're trying to figure out how to change it. I mean, there's quite a bit of investigative work that is done. It's just not a matter of reading through the charter and saying, well, I want to change this, I want to change that. You need to reach out and look at what other communities have done. So it does take quite a while to do it right.
Well, just to reiterate, Bill, I think that was the point I was trying to make, is that it's a long process. It's a time-consuming process. I think Joe's found that out. Ray, you found that out. It's not a simple process. And if you want to delay it, fine. But what's gonna happen is come down towards the end line to get it on the November ballot, and you're gonna be stretched for time. It's gonna happen. How these committees work. And Bill says you're gonna get out of it what you put into it, on how much you wanna look into the state statutes, the other towns, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us. And that should be done by a committee of residents of the town. It's their charter, it's not ours, it's theirs. You wanna go with a 7-member committee, fine. With all members of the public on it, fine. But it's gonna take time. There's no question about it.
When we vote on this resolution, do we have to have those specifics in this resolution, the number and all that type of stuff?
Well, I think it would
Yes.
certainly give me some
Definitely
direction.
numbers.
And, you know, if we can change it, we put 5 on there due to a conversation I had with Bill.
Yeah.
You know, that was, and whatever you guys choose for a number, we can just plug it in.
It's hard to figure out a number if you don't know how many people wanna be on it.
Well, we've got quite a few applications, don't we?
I have, just in case.
Yeah, yes, they are.
I currently have 6 applications, and I'm aware that some people wanted to wait until a committee had been formed to submit an application. So I don't know how many out there that will hear that there's a committee and want to be added.
Can you tell the public and who put the applications in? The names of those people? If you would, please.
I would think that it would be only fair to them is if we waited until we decided to vote on those individuals.
I think it'd be a good idea that we know who they are.
Well, you will know once we decide. I will put out, you know, that
The,
there's
the
an
committee won't be formed until the next meeting.
Committee won't be formed. I think we ought to push this over to November and then stop.
I think it'll take time to figure out who you want on
Figure
the
out what we're
committee.
gonna do.
More
Oh,
than-
yeah, yeah.
We have to find out who they are and then.
Would you think
so
that'd be a good idea,
it won't
Bill?
be a
Yeah,
working
I've made a proposed resolution for you to consider that has 5 parts. And since you know it, but the public doesn't, if you'd like, I'll just go over it very briefly.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That'd be good.
The number 1, the town council creates a charter amendment committee composed of blank members appointed by the council at its meeting on August 12th. Number 2, interested residents must submit a statement of interest and qualifications to the town by, actually, it should be earlier than August, it says August 11th, but it'd be the week before that. By August 5th. The charge to the committee is to make any recommendations for changes to the town council no later than, and I just left a blank. In other words, if you're gonna create a committee, give them a deadline to get their work done. Work expands to fill the time allotted to us. Isn't that Murphy's Law? Put a deadline out there, and the committee will know, okay, we've got 6 months or whatever to get our work done, and the committee will get its work done. If it's open-ended, it just kind of drags on. At the committee's organizational meeting, it shall elect a chair, a vice chair, and secretary to serve at the pleasure of the committee. Number 5, the town will provide necessary administrative assistance for the committee. You don't just create this committee and not have any type of administrative backup. The committee needs that. I mean, things have to be typed up, they have to be revised. To try to place that responsibility on the committee members who are serving as volunteers seems a little unfair. If we're gonna do this, do it right. Now, I'm not saying that this is the way you have to do it, but these are different components that are necessary. You gotta have a deadline for applications, and then you have to have enough time to review them before the council meeting at which you're gonna consider them, and then you will select your members. And then those members have to get together and find a date when they can all meet, because they have to elect a chair. There has to be somebody in charge, and there should be a vice chair, because sometimes the chair might be absent, for example. And then they have to, okay, how often are we gonna meet, and they have to come up with a schedule of meetings and break it down into components. And that all does take a fair amount of time. And this is an all-volunteer committee, and it's been suggested by a couple of people, meeting once a month is probably the best you're gonna do. And that's probably fairly accurate, particularly if there's work being done between meetings. So, I've just put this together for your consideration. You can say you like it, you don't like it, that's entirely up to the council. I've been through this process on a number of occasions, and there are ways you can do it that work well, and there are ways you can do it and it doesn't work well.
So in between these committee meetings, are we gonna have to be approached as a council? In other words, we're gonna have extra meetings during the month in order to go through some of this stuff with them as we go along?
No,
No?
don't have to.
Okay.
You might ask the committee to come back to you at a midpoint and to let you know as council where
Where
they're
we're at.
coming from.
Okay,
But that's not required.
okay.
Through the chair, if I might, Mike, when you mentioned about the charter, like about 6 months ago, well, when you first came on and I said, geez, I want to go look at the charter, I want to investigate it, I want to, familiar myself with it. So, and to be perfectly honest with you, I said, I'm really going to look into this, and I found out where it was, I opened it up, I closed it, and I haven't looked at it since. So I think we really do need a commission to go look at this. Committee to go look at this because, I'm not going to do it myself. I'm not going to go. And I thought that I would be able to. So I kind of was against this idea of this charter committee at that point in time. But my own personal experience said that I wasn't going to look at it, and I wasn't going to do it. I think as a committee makes changes, I will look at it, and I will give me the emphasis to look at the charter and to do that. But and that's kind of why I was against it at the beginning. Because I figured I wanted to familiar myself with it, and I didn't. So, and I don't think I'm going to, and be perfectly honest, in June and August, and probably most of September. So I'm not going to do it. So I think we need a committee to do it. When we start it, I'm always against starting any type of thing in July and August, and even in the beginning, But I think if we started it in either August or September, came back, and you would have time to do your resolution or refine Dale's resolution. Because I think Dale has a great idea, is that we do have to do it, and we do have to look into the charter commission. Committee.
And so, are you asking me a question?
No, I'm just saying, I'm asking the council a question.
Oh, okay.
When do we want, you could have a resolution.
Well,
We could add wording.
He's got the resolution.
I gave you a resolution for
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
You all
Yeah,
got
I
that
see it, yeah.
4 or 5 days ago. There's a date that says August 11th for getting a statement of interest in. It should be a week earlier than that, or 5 or 6 days earlier, so you have enough time to review it. If in fact you want to do something like this. I'm not saying what you have to do, but I just wanted to provide you with a framework that you could use if you wish. But it does need to have some of these components. People have to have
I
time
think
to
the
be able to
framework's
submit.
great. I think we just gotta refine numbers,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I mean, you might decide you want, okay, we're not gonna have the commission created in August, we'd rather do it in September. And if you just, or maybe even October, okay, you can just move these dates. But the time will pass quickly. The time will pass quickly. Don't we all know that?
I think August is too soon. I think we gotta give the people time enough to get their applications in, so I can't see picking anybody by August. I think the deadline for them being in should be August, and then we should have till September to choose who we want on that committee, to give everybody a fair shake at applying.
That works for me, Fran. I think it's a good idea. We've got 6 applications, we got several more who want to apply for it. So we're gonna come to you with a list of people, and you're gonna get a chance to choose who you wanna have on that committee.
9/3 to get your applications in,
so
9/9 you decide it.
All we gotta do is figure out
If you
how
wanted to.
large we want the committee. And I personally, I'd rather work with a smaller group of people than a larger group of people.
I think the
And I
seven,
think Bill made a
for
very
me,
good
my
point.
opinion, 7 is a good number, especially with such a big amount of interest. There's 7 of us, we do fine. They could be 3 people absent, still have a quorum if they needed to vote on something. 7's a good number. If we only had 4 people applying, keep it at 5. But like I said, if you're
Well, if
going to
it's gonna
have a
meet-
couple of council members who may want to sit on it, you're gonna eliminate some people, the residents who want to be on it. I don't
Yep.
think 7's a problem.
I think so too. I think 7 would be fine. At least
No, it's really
you
up to the
could,
council.
if you have 5, if 3 is a quorum, if you get into that, at least 7, you can have, the chances of having a quorum are better. That's just my opinion, so I think that's good. And
Well,
it's-
you need to have a group together. There need to be enough people
Okay,
showing.
Can
so-
we have one conversation up here, please? I'm having a
Go
hard
ahead,
time
Jeff.
hearing what's going on, unfortunately.
Can we have a motion, please, on this?
I will move that we, first of all, agree to.
Well, that'd be an amendment.
No, I would agree to table this until August, our August meeting. We will have the resolution completed with more things, that by our August meeting, whatever date that is, all applications to be on the committee should be in. That gives us until our September meeting to review those applications and decide who we want or whatever, and have the committee selected at our September meeting.
Sounds good to me.
And in the meantime.
Do you want to make that motion?
You're moving to table this for a month?
I think that's the way to do it, isn't it, Bill? Right now, we can table it.
It's up to the council.
And then table it. Well, no.
We don't need.
No.
Dale, can you
Make
move the
amendment.
mic closer to your mouth?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the only amendment we have to make is
The number of people and dates.
the number of people. Okay, so First Amendment.
Well, you gonna open it first?
What's that?
We gotta open it first.
I'll move to amend.
Can't amend if we haven't even moved it
No,
yet.
Oh, it hasn't been moved yet? Oh, okay.
No, there was a motion by Dale and then Lee.
Okay.
So-
It's been so long, I forgot.
So, the First Amendment will be the membership from 5 to 7. And to amend that application deadline will be, anybody got their calendar to see what the next meeting is on in August 12th or something?
Yep, 12th.
Application deadline by August 12th.
I'd go the previous Friday, just so that we can have them at the meeting.
Well, no, because the Third Amendment is gonna be that the appointments will be made at our September meeting.
No, I understand that, but
So you
the
want-
only reason I was getting at that is that then we could have all the applications handed to each one of us on that Monday
Well, it'll have
night.
to be by Thursday then. They're closed on Friday.
Okay.
What's the Thursday date then?
Of what date? What are you looking at? Before the
The
12th?
Thursday before the August
29th.
meeting. No.
No.
What's the
Of
Thursday?
The 8th, August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th
Oh, you're going,
for application deadlines.
okay, okay.
Yeah, and then the appointments will be made at our
September meeting.
September, what's the date for that meeting?
Don't know.
Ninth.
Ninth.
September 9th. So I'll make the motion to amend Resolution 22-2024 by deleting 5 members and inserting therein 7 members. And by adding to that application deadlines for the committee, August 8th. And appointments will be made to the committee at the regular council meeting on September 9th.
I second that.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a date for when this committee is to report back with its recommendations?
Okay, if you want a 4th, we'll put a 4th in, Bill.
Do we actually need that, Bill? Right off quick.
Well, I think at some point, you better be telling the committee when it has to report back.
I think that when we do our organizational meeting, because I'm planning on having you at that first meeting with me, we can set those guidelines. I don't know if we need to put that into a resolution because that locks us down. And I think we need to have some,
It could be a week before the monthly meeting. Just put it a week before.
Well, this would be to come back with all of its recommendations.
With all the recommendations.
Because you said February, Bill. Really, does the February deadline have to be?
No, I didn't say February.
Did you?
No.
What was the, 6 months?
I just left a blank.
Oh, okay.
I just put a
I
blank.
saw something about February somewhere.
I
Yeah.
put in February because I
Oh.
didn't have direction.
It was we'd have to go back in time because
Because that date really doesn't
Oh,
have
well,
to be
sure.
until springtime to get it on in November.
I guess it should be 5.
There may be nothing that even has to go on.
That's
Exactly.
Well, through the chair?
Yes.
town manager is suggesting that you'd actually not put a date in and lock us in, and leave it to the committee to, at its organizational meeting, establish a date at which it is going to report back to the council. And of course, and if the council doesn't like that date, you can amend the resolution
Well, I was
and
just
tell the
gonna-
council, tell the committee to come back earlier.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You could.
Can we put a vague, like a 6-month thing in there instead of a specific hard date? So
Well,
it's-
or you could leave it to the committee to come up with a date, is what Ella
So
suggested.
we can just turn around and tell them, no, we need it this day.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Just at some point, a date needs to be established, so everybody's working on the same time clock.
Yep, absolutely.
If I could just make sure I've got this right. The town council hereby creates a charter amendment committee composed of 7 members appointed by the council at its meeting on September 9th, 2024. Interested residents must submit a statement of interest and qualifications to the town by August 8th of 2024. At the committee's organizational meeting, it shall elect a chair, vice chair, and secretary to serve at the pleasure of the committee, and the town will provide necessary administrative assistance for the committee.
Sounds
good. So moved.
What's that? Okay. So, no, September
September
9th is the meeting.
Right.
And August 8th
It's a
Is
week
the
before.
deadline.
is the week before, so that, or the weeks before, so then I can submit the applications to you, right?
Correct.
Yep.
August 8th is when everyone's applications need to be in.
Correct.
Okay,
Before our meeting on August 12th?
Yeah, so we can have them in hand the day of the meeting?
Yeah.
and then we won't, so you're not going to appoint anyone until
Till
the
September.
next meeting?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make sure.
You might want to grill some of these people, Okay, so we have a motion. We need a second.
Oh, I thought you seconded that motion, no?
Did I?
I think so.
Probably.
I wrote your name down.
I don't know.
Okay, so is everyone on agreement with that amendment?
Any discussion on it?
Okay, so, a motion on the amendment, as I just read that. Should I read it again, or everyone's all set? Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lent,
Yes.
and Lee Trahan.
Yes.
And then, do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, could we have a roll call on resolution number 22-2024 as amended, please?
Yes. And would you like me to reread that?
I think we're good.
Okay. Just wanna make sure. Jeff West,
Yes.
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lent,
Yes.
and Lee Trahan.
Yes.
So motion to pass resolution 22-2024 as amended passes 7-0. Okay. Resolution number 23-2024, accepting the 2023 Winslow Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Audra. I'm sure that every one of you have had a chance to read through this comprehensive plan, and you know it by heart. All the state requirements have been followed, and we're just asking for council to accept that.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
Yes.
Fran Hudson,
Yes.
Ray Karen,
Yes.
Adam Lent,
Yes.
Lee Trahan,
Yes.
and Jeff West.
Yes.
Motion, resolution number 2024, accepting the 2023 Winslow Comprehensive Plan passes 7-0. On to discussion, a proposal for a new tanker truck, Director McDade and Deputy Chief Murphy.
Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Oh.
Good evening. So, we have been working on this for approximately, before I got hired, they were working on a tanker. And it went back and forth. It came to the council, they did workshops on it, and it's been pushed by the wayside. We're at the point now where we absolutely need to replace the tanker. Yeah, it's a 1996. Parts are harder and harder to find for it. The last time it needed to be repaired, it was over $20,000. What we did find out with our tanker that we have now, that the pump is obsolete for parts. So if something internal of the pump breaks, it has to go somewhere, the pump has to come out. It's roughly, the estimate on that was right around $40,000 for it to come out. It then needs to go to a machine shop to be repaired, unknown cost depending on what breaks, and then reinstalled if they can replace it for another $40,000. So it gets really pricey when you start talking about the pump. We also had an issue with it where the engine ECM had an issue. A new one was purchased, not knowing at the time, because it was supposed to be a quick fix. It was the wrong codes, and it was out of service for approximately 6 months with 2 trips to Scarborough, one on a hook and one driven back, to figure out the codes. They had to go back to 1996 and supersede, excuse me, they started in 2024 and had to go back to 1996 to supersede the codes with all the different changes with the fire engine manufacturers on parts and pieces to get this truck running correctly again. In front of you are 3 proposals. We really looked at this hard. I know that the prices are a scary thing to look at. Just to let you know, current trade magazines and current prices on fire apparatus have gone up 100% since 2020, thanks COVID. So a truck that you could buy for $500,000 is now $700,000 in the last 3 years. It's kind of scary. We're also worried about space. We don't want to buy a new station. Obviously, that is a huge investment to replace the fire station. So we have to look at space, length, height. Our current tanker is very high. That's not recommended anymore. Back in the day, it was great. It was the best truck in the world. Now everything they want low profile and a little longer. So what you have in front of you is 3 proposals. We've hashed these proposals out over and over. I've given them out before. Worked with Eller and Director McDade, and these are the 3 trucks or the 3 companies that I would like to go with. One of the few things is there's a lot of optimism or a lot of doubt on what Winslow needs, whether it be a commercial cab or a custom cab. In my years in service, I don't like commercial cabs. They're made to haul freight, Pepsi. They're not made for a tanker. We have swapped in the department that I was on from custom cabs to commercial, and we always have issues with them, whether it be not so much frame, but weight. It's sitting weight. You're talking 3,000 gallons of water sitting on a, for a lack of a better word, a Pepsi truck. And we had issues with it. So the one that we have chosen, which is the least amount that I presented to you, is Autotronics LLC. They're from Madawaska, Maine. We can service and repair them right in Bangor, Maine. I went to Indiana on a training, and I actually got to speak with the two brothers and the father that owns the company. These guys were very specific on what we should go with. They were very receptive to our changes to what they had brought up to us. They gave us some really stuff that we didn't think of that we should think about. They gave us really good insight. And it'll meet our needs for the next 30 years. That's what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build you the best truck for your money for the longest term we can use the apparatus. If we go with what we've got now, what we have now for a tanker does not necessarily will replace the pumper we have in the station. In other words, if the newest truck we have goes down, that tanker has big shoes to fill because of what that pumper does. The extrication equipment on it, on the current engine 7 that's in-house is our newest, would have to sit in the back of a pickup truck. It can't go into any of the 3 ambulances because they're ambulances. You can't have gas in an ambulance. It's against Maine State EMS law. You cannot have gas on an ambulance for power tools, and our tools are power generated by gas. So looking at this, we also have a trailer out back that has a bunch of equipment in it, and what I found out very soon after I became deputy chief and before that is we have a whole set of extrication tools sitting in a trailer out back. This second set of tools will go on this apparatus, and we'll have 2 sets of jaws that can roll out in an accident scene all at once, making life-saving quicker, efficient. What I did put in here, what we did look at was a 4-door custom cab with 4 seats. The reason why we went this, right now, the current assembly is, it says it's a 3-person cab. Anybody here that was on the fire department when it was purchased, I know Jeff has, and I know you've seen it, that cab is really tiny for 3 people, even normal people size, it's very tight. It's very hard to drive even for a 150-pound guy in turnout gear to drive. This engine will suit Winslow, this tanker will suit Winslow for many years to come. And if you have any questions, I have all kinds of, hopefully, the answers you need.
Just to add one thing, when they originally proposed this, I think it was almost 2 years ago, the first proposal they had was 1.4 million, and I know Mike has spent months and months looking at probably 10 different trucks.
We've looked at everything from Canada to California. Try to get the best truck at the best price for what's gonna happen. We've talked about, we've mentioned regionalization. You don't necessarily get rid of manpower, you just combine everything. We get a custom cab, we can have, if regionalization happens in the area, you would have an ambulance and an engine somewhere other than I can throw a rock and hit Waterville Fire. You could put a crew out there and now you have 3 or 4 firefighters and a 2 ambulance crew. That truck could be somewhere in the regional, for regionalization.
I got a question for you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
How much money have we spent in repairing this one here in the last couple of years?
So this recent one was over 20 grand. The following year before that was like 5 or 6. I had, and it must have fallen out. I had that, and I can get you those.
Okay.
Roughly about 30 grand.
Now, if we didn't purchase that now, we have up to what, August 1st to decide on this?
So unfortunately, there's new EPA laws coming out on emissions. So some engines that we could have gotten, let's say 6 months ago, August 1st, we're not going to be able to get. But if we lock this down before August 1st, we can get the pre-emission.
What would that save us?
Roughly, so if you look in the first one, which is Autotronics, it states right here, and that goes from everybody. So please understand that this apparatus has the potential to increase in cost an estimated $65,000 to $90,000 due to needing to change different engines. And that's across the board. The latest one from Allegiance Fire Rescue is It was $1,096,000. That's now 1.4. He just didn't, 1.4 for the Allegiance tanker that they spec'd.
Now, if we happen to do that purchase, when would we be receiving this tanker?
So this company right here would be 600 and, I believe it was 625 days.
So you're talking 2 years.
Yep, and that's everywhere.
Now, if we did this, the tanker that we have now, would we be able to sell it?
We could sell it. I have seen, because I looked, a bunch of people have asked that question. There's local people that want to buy it. I found 2 trucks similar, same cab, same body style. They're running between $60,000 and $90,000
Okay.
for sale, if we sell it to a fire department.
If we sell it to a fire department?
Correct.
Is that the ones that are looking for one?
To be honest with you, the one that's pushing the hardest is Flood Farm. They want it as a water truck.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. That's the
Okay.
rumor.
Now, if we waited for this another year and that tanker goes bad, that's gonna cost major money and it's not gonna be worth anything as far as to sell out, getting any
Right,
money
it's
for
gonna
it.
end up being just a tender because we won't have a pump on it.
Okay, so in other words, it's
If
just.
you don't wanna spend the money, it would end up just being a tender, which is what they consider no pump. There'd be no pump on it. If you spent, like I said, it was $40,000 to remove it, machine shop price, and then $40,000 to put it in, back
Now,
in.
we figured that into the budget when we first started this budget, right?
So, I believe so. In the 5-year capital improvement that I saw today, it's in there.
37,
Yeah. We have that in there, so there's, go ahead, Ella, I'm sorry.
No, I just, through the chair, Jeff, my viewpoint on this probably is not very popular. And I respect the professionals that work at the fire department. My only concern is we have so much coming down the road with expenditures. I am not a fan for financing anything for rolling stock. I don't care if it's a fire truck or if it's a police cruiser or whatever. If we can't pay cash for it, we shouldn't be buying it. We have to go into debt for so many different things. You know, as far as being a Pepsi truck, Mike, I hear you on that, but we have public works trucks, these wheelers that are down there that are putting 60, 70, 80,000 pounds worth of sand on it with another 20,000 pounds worth of headgear for plowing snow. Those trucks hold up for 30 years. Fire trucks, in my opinion, should be lasting 30 years. We've got 96, we go 30, we go 32 years. It's still allowing us to put more cash in the bank and accumulate that. If we sell that truck, that means that somebody else is going to take that truck and get more time and use out of it. This thing has 2,745 hours on it. I don't know if you know what that means, but you don't start selling equipment until they got 15 to 20,000 hours on it. So the truck has life left in it. Is it obsolete? Some of the parts on it are, but there's nothing that can't be fixed. In the world of mutual aid, when you call in a fire, you've got more fire trucks that show up at this fire, more than what the road can handle. So there's always going to be somebody that's going to have the equipment to go and help us out. You know, this is the council's decision on what to do, and I completely will respect. This is a business decision. Lenny and I have talked about this a couple of times. I respect that, and I respect Mike, and I know that we have a garage full of really nice high-end fire trucks. I know that. And having this one that probably doesn't look like the rest of them is a little disheartening. But will it last another 5, 10 years down the road? Absolutely, this truck will. This thing runs like a Swiss watch. We just put money into the motor. Chances are you're not going to have to put much more money into it for a while. So that's my opinion. I'll respect the council over the direction that you want to take this. We treat our people very well. I mean, our firefighters, we just signed and sealed a contract. We treat them well. We're not trying to be abusive or anything. We just have to look at what our needs are as a community. We've got a school department that's going to cost us $1 million. We just borrowed $6 million. We got $3 million in grants. It just keeps coming. We have to tap the brakes a little bit. Just food for thought.
Through the chair, Mike, I know we've already talked about this in the past. We already agreed it's in the budget to put money toward this truck. What's the number one reason you want a new truck? To be pretty or because we need it?
In my opinion, we need it. The thing that I have an issue with mutual aid is sometimes you don't get it.
So what I'm saying is, what's wrong with the truck that you would need mutual aid? You don't think the truck is gonna stand up? Is that it?
My biggest concern right now is if there's another, how much money do you want to put into it?
So
On a
it's nickel
28.
and diming, same as.
It
if
is and
we-
it isn't. It's running great now, but it was running great when it broke down before and was out of service for half a year.
What do other departments usually keep, how long do they usually keep their trucks?
Anywhere 28 to 30 years. And once it starts, once it starts doing what ours has been doing, right now it's great. But what happens?
Do you think this truck's a safety issue for the town of Winslow?
I don't think so much as a safety issue, but what if it fails? I mean, it's a what if, you could what if it all day long. I don't like using that, but we didn't know that there was an issue with the truck until we had it tested. So if we pump test it next year, or coming up this fall, when we found out it had a problem and it fails again, we could do the whole 6-month thing again, trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Because they have to go back and supersede everything and start reading it in reverse.
Director McDade, what do you think?
Like I told the town manager.
Could you speak in the microphone, please?
I rely heavily on Mike. I'm not the expert in that field. This has been a discussion on at least a weekly basis over the fire department. And when I mean a weekly discussion, I'm not talking about over a cup of coffee. They've diagnosed this thing and ripped it apart, and that's all they talk about. I believe the fire department feels they need this. I do agree with Ella. I'm always cautious about the money, because I know we're always in a money situation and we have to look at that part of it, so I agree with her on that. I think the saving grace I see, like when I brought it in front of you guys, when we were gonna go over in the budget, now we came out okay. I think the saving grace I see is that we have 2 payments right now for 2 fire trucks, and I believe in a year, one of them is done.
I believe it's this year.
Yeah, so if you did, is it this year or next year?
Next year.
Next year. So my thinking is, so we don't go into debt, if we do need this truck and the council feels we need this truck and the fire department does, at least if we can offset when the other payment's gone, we can take this one versus just biting off something different right now.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair, what do we have in our capital budget for this particular line item right now?
$250,000.
250,000, so that takes 250 out of it. One of the things I did hear, Mr. Murphy, is that what I like is, you get your pumper right now, but you have a tanker that probably can't replace the pumper.
Correct.
Pumper has been out periodically through this period of time.
Correct.
It concerns me, number one, that we don't have an adequate backup for the pumper at this particular time.
Correct.
And one other thing is that equipment-wise, I think if you lose your pumper, you need to be able to transfer the equipment necessary, because 80% of our calls are EMS calls at this particular time. So we need to be able to transfer that equipment into an adequate tanker type of, pumper type of combination type of thing. So those are the
Correct.
2 things I heard. I have to ask this question. I know
Yes.
you're asking for a custom cab.
Yep.
What was the commercial cab? What's the price difference between a commercial cab and a
So
custom cab?
we had talked to, Eller asked me this question, and I brought it, we looked at the commercial cab, the way the truck is set now, with T7 is now, with the extended bumper, everything the same, other than compartment space, and it will not fit in the current station. It'll be right up against the door, and everything that we have with the SCBA fill station cannot be moved into the back hall because of the floor.
With a commercial cab?
With a commercial cab with the extended bumper. We'd actually be going backwards because we'd be losing the bumper space.
Yeah, yeah.
And we use that has our fill lines on the bumper. That are, because we don't have compartment space to put those 2 full fill lines in there without taking equipment we need off in it.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
On that particular truck, you're saying we have 3,000 gallons of water sitting in there all the time, correct?
Yes.
That's quite a difference than what we have our plow trucks that don't have anything sitting in them all the time.
They do for a short period of time in the winter.
Now, is that commercial on the town
Yes.
trucks?
Yes.
Okay.
But they're it's
Mike,
not, go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
Mike, in the wintertime, they do sit with sand in the back.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Is that equivalent to 3,000 gallons?
It's more than that for sand,
It is?
correct.
Okay.
Right. Right.
I see something here, I think our ladder truck is gonna be, if we bought this truck here, our ladder truck would probably be paid at the same time for, actually 2029, 2030. If we accepted this, our ladder truck would also be paid as well as this tanker truck, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Through the chair. I don't think there's much of a disagreement that at some point in time, we are going to need a tanker truck.
Correct.
There's no doubt. When is that time? Is it now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years from now? And I don't profess to be an expert on tanker trucks. My understanding is, yeah, we put 15 or 20, whatever it was, into that last, whenever it was, recently, to the place in Scarborough, to the manufacturer. And it came back in pretty good condition, according to their reports to us.
Correct.
6 months to get it fixed, yeah, but that was, there's probably some issues in there getting it down there. Not as quick as possible.
No,
Put it that way.
No, it was not. They got it in as quick as they could, and they actually went above and beyond, in my opinion, for a fire apparatus to get it in and work on it as quick as they did.
And we need it at some point. The problem right now is with this town, as we all know, just after finishing up another budget season, money's tight, and money's gonna be tight going down the road. We've got a lot of projects going on, this being one. We've got others, the junior high being another one. We've got a lot that all takes part of the pie.
Correct.
We have, I think, 2 years now to come up with that 250, been putting money aside into the fire capital account, basically specifically for the purpose of the tanker truck over the last couple of years. And that is budgeted money. We can put the same money aside for another 2, 3, 4, 5 years without a budget increase, with that money being earmarked for the tanker. That's the plan. That's the plan we started with 2 years ago. When we institute these long-term capital plans, and basically they're 3, 4, 5-year plans, we gotta stick to them, I think. We have to. If not, we're gonna lose something along the way.
Correct, but I had,
Something is gonna come up within the next 2 or 3 or 4 years that we don't even know about. Are we gonna then take 250,000 out of capital fire and put it into capital public works? Well, I hope not. We'll deal with public works when the time comes, and we'll leave that in with the tanker. Yeah, we've got some bonds being paid off in the next 2, 3, and 5 years, I think. I haven't looked at that recently, but we've got some bonds being paid off, some big bonds. I think we've got 2 payments on one, 3 payments on another, and maybe 5 on another one. Don't quote me on that, but it's there somewhere. That is money that, part of that is earmarked, yes, to take over some of these bond payments that we're incurring now. But certainly some of that will be freed up for other projects. And I think, I know you guys need one, I know you guys want one. This is not the right timing for it. We've got to do what we can to make that one last. And if that includes spending $5,000 to $10,000 a year on preventive maintenance every year on it, that's what it's gonna take. That's a far cry from $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, or $150,000 a year in payments. You gotta be patient with us with the budget. You have to be. And with Ella being new and everything, these plans, these long-term plans have to be put into effect now. And we know what the budget's like. We cannot afford to spend this kind of money right now. Just simply can't do it. Hopefully, 3 years down the road, maybe 2 years down the road. 4 years, hopefully 5 years, probably for sure.
But
And in the meantime, it breaks down, it's gone for 6 months. I guess I might have more confidence in mutual aid than some people do, but mutual aid is out there.
Mutual-
Fairfield has one, Sydney has one, Oakland have one?
yes, Oakland has 2.
Oakland has 2.
Yep.
So there's 4 within,
Vassarboro has
Yeah.
2 or 3.
yeah, so I would feel confident mutual aid would be available.
Through the chair, if we do put this out a couple of years, then we're still looking at a 2-year lead time before we can get a new machine too, so. if you
Right,
wait
so
another
it's gonna
2
be
years,
another
it could
4
be
years.
4 or 5
The-
years before we.
My understanding when, because I got hired when this was, they were in the process of starting this when I got hired as a lieutenant. And it's been pushed off to the price where I've watched the initial of the Autotronics truck was $600,000 for a custom cab. It's now $8,079. What's it gonna be in 4 years? Even a commercial chassis pumper, what's that gonna be?
You mean 879,000?
Sorry, yes, I'm sorry, yes. What are we gonna be looking at down the road for a, how high is this? Like I said, since 2020, they've gone up 100%, and there's no stopping it, unfortunately.
And it's gonna go up if we don't do it by August 1st by,
Correct, it's gonna
By
go
how
up by 65 to 90,000 due to the change in the EPA laws on the engines.
Through the
My-
I'm sorry.
My
Whoop.
only comment on that is if we were able to find a way to prevent buying this thing for 4 years, we could write a check for it. Because the 4 years we'd be putting 150,000 or so away every year. There's 600,000, plus we got 250, there's 850. We can cut the check for the rest of it, so we wouldn't have the interest on it, if that's the direction we wanted to go.
If we waited 4 years,
If we-
then
if
we'd
we
still
were
have 2
able
more
to-
years on top of that to wait for the new truck to
You're
show
gonna,
up.
you're gonna write a check for it. And that's when we start breaking out of financing for vehicles. It's it's painful to get to that point. We've been so used to just borrowing money for something that we've needed. And, so it's hard to get out of that. We all know that. We all had debt. And, so once you break through that glass ceiling, you're able to go and do it with other equipment too.
Do we have anything in the rainy day fund or the slush fund or fund balance that
Well,
we
we
could
got-
offset anything to get this now before we have to spend another $90,000 for a different motor and different, emissions issues and
I
stuff
think
like
we
that?
got enough to cover any of that if it happens. That's,
Through the chair, I would like to say that I don't feel comfortable as a resident playing Russian roulette with maybe mutual aid, maybe it won't break. If there's the need for it, what's the question? We've already been budgeting the money. Every time you delay, it's gonna cost more and more, and that includes parts for it to be fixed when it breaks. That's gonna be more and more as you wait. I think that if the deputy fire chief and the director feel and the other firefighters feel it is an absolute need, it's my opinion, I wouldn't wanna go with, what if there's 3 fires all somewhere at the same time? You don't have mutual aid.
So mutual aid is great. We have a great relationship with the area. However, home construction is not 1970. Home construction, you have a couch that burns like gasoline now in your living room. And the amount of fire growth in modern homes is huge. And now you're waiting anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes for 3,000 gallons of water, and you're sitting on scene with no water because either we don't have the tanker or something happens. I mean, that's worst case scenario.
This is more or less where you can't be hooked up to a fire main or something in town. where
Correct.
you have access
2/3
to
of
water.
Winslow is rural.
Right, absolutely.
We don't have hydrants. It would be great, if we had hydrants on every street, and I'd say we do it all the time. In-town fires, we had a knockdown last night, 12 minutes. Fully involved, single wood frames, full of lithium-ion batteries. We had the fire under control in 15 minutes. So,
And that was due to access to large
Water.
amounts of water.
Yep,
Immediately.
immediately.
Through the chair, I have a question, Ella. When you said we could probably put about $125,000 a year towards this tanker,
Oh, we can put about 150 in.
150?
In 4 years, that'll give us, in 4 years' time, that'll give us 600,000. We currently have about 250 in there right now with this year's budget.
Okay, well, I'm looking at this here, the payment to debt payment schedule.
134.
Yeah, went 134, so we could be making the payments as we own it.
But you're paying interest. The interest is taxpayers' money. That's my only concern.
And
Once
what's
you-
the
it-
interest
It's a
rate?
little painful to get out of that. Once we get out of it, we can stay out of it. I mean, it depends on the type of business you wanna go with. If you wanna finance it, you finance it.
I have to agree with you. I'd rather see some things paid instead of leased, that's for sure. I'm all for that. But by saying that, you know, what Fran says, being comfortable about the people here in Winslow and being safe, but if we're putting $125,000 or $150,000 a year and our payments are actually $134, we can still pay for it, pay the interest on it, and still be ahead.
And
That'll
then we
be-
just
that's-
start making sure that we put money away for the next 30 years so that when this
There we
comes up
go.
again, we've got twice the amount of money.
And we could
in there
own
that
it.
We need to, so that we can buy the apparatuses, the new equipment that we need, and everything else, and that's just starting now to plan forward.
Yeah,
Right, I'm just trying to present you guys with the facts
Yep.
and
Well, the other thing that I was a little confused with, Ella, is that when we had the FY for 2025, we had the manager's proposed budget of $1.8 million. And now it looks like we're going to the 1.6. I'm not sure why we went down to that 1.6.
Because we unfunded 3 positions. Remember when we went through a budget process and we talked about that? We unfunded 3 positions in the fire department to bring our budget down.
But you have to go by your original budget. You can't go by the one we did, because when we voted no against the school, it
It was
automatically
unfunded,
reverts.
that original budget was
So
unfunded.
the original money is what they're going to get, right?
Right.
Okay, okay, thank you.
If I may, through the chair really quickly, there's only one way to make this work. And we have done this in the past, and I do not suggest it because it never really happens the way it's planned, is to say, we got 250 in there now. We know that we putting in 150 a year, and we know we have a fire truck payment that's coming due in 2 years, Jeff?
Yeah.
2
We have-
years.
We have 2 more payments on it.
2 more payments, so, you know, what we have done way back is we have taken, again, but we're taking, remember, we're taking fund balance, 500,000 out of fund balance. We're taking the 250, or whatever we had, take enough out of fund balance, plus the 250, plus the 150 that we would put next year in the budget to fund this, this tanker pumper truck. Knowing that after this year or next year, that we take the 150 that we had for capital, refund it back into the fund balance, and then, with the payment, put that into fund balance. So we would make a commitment as a council to take 500, whatever we needed out of fund balance, with the idea that we were going to put that money back into fund balance.
Through the capital gains that were.
Through the less payments that we have in capital. I can tell you, it
Doesn't work.
don't work that way. It don't work that way because something comes up and something doesn't happen, but that's just what we have done in the past, and we have gotten in trouble for that in the past because we don't put it back in there, and we jeopardize the capital that we are putting into the fire department for a couple of years.
So are you saying that you don't have self-control?
I think. That's a loaded question. I think it's obvious, okay? Question. So that's what we've done in the past, and we have funded, public works trucks using that method. We have done, you know, because we knew a payment was coming up and we could replace it into fund balance. So we have done that. That's the only way I can see where this would, without going into debt, really And, you know, we have some things coming up. We already just took out a 6 million, 3 million. We probably got $1 million with the junior high we'll have to make a decision on in a couple, at least within the next year and a half or 2 years, so.
Just remember, when you put the key in that truck, you turn it on, it starts. When you get the switch to pump water, it pumps water.
I'm just giving you an option. That's all I'm giving you as an option that we've used in the past.
Yeah, Ray, I think we found out that option doesn't work all the time. It doesn't.
I don't think it ever worked,
It
but,
never-
but
never
it
worked,
is
right?
not,
Never
but
worked.
it does free up cash. Usually we put it in something else, but that's unfortunately,
But there's a lot of things in this town and budget-wise and everything, and we were just discussing, bonds we got being paid off. I don't have that in front of me, Ella, but in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, we've got a bunch coming off the books.
I don't know if it's.
That money is out there, it's basically budgeted money. And what do we do with it? Well, reduce the mill rate, however much we can, or we flip it into something else. And what we're talking about generally, leave the mill rate the same, flip those bond payments into other bond payments to get things going with no tax increase. And right now, we have, as we all know, Jaffrey Brook bonds are coming up, Sunset Heights bonds coming up, junior high's coming up, and all of that stuff. And we've got this plan that we've worked out so far, and for 2 years it's worked. And where the fire department fits in on this scale is, I think, and I agree with what Ella says, is that pay cash for it in 3 or 4 or 5 years. Make it last that long. You guys can do it.
I worked with Les.
And do the best you can with it, take care of it. We'll spend some money on maintenance. I think the numbers you said, 5,000-6,000 the last 2 or 3 years, and
This
I guess-
year being the most was
yeah, the
20.
biggest one was this past year that took,
Correct, yes.
that really
Yeah.
put it in good shape.
Right.
And put the money, I know, and I don't like to do it, on spending a lot of money on repairs. But I think this is an instance where we have to keep that truck running for 2 or 3 years. In 2 or 3 years, I firmly believe this town is gonna be in a better financial state than it is right now. We've got a lot of money coming off the books. And we can deal with things better at that time.
Well, if we wait 2 or 3 years, then the truck's gonna have to last 4 or 5 years at that point to be able to, even $10,000 for 5 years, you're talking $50,000. If we have $15,000 to $20,000 a year, you're talking $100,000 in maintenance and fees and repairs and stuff like that that would have offset the interest rates that we would have paid to have it taken care of earlier. I mean, when's it, you lose 6 months a year for something that you have to dump $20,000 into, and then 5 years later, you're at $100,000, and you've lost 2.5, 3 years of use out of the vehicle also. But,
Correct.
you know, that's worst case scenario.
Correct.
That's,
And
they
so-
could go fine for 2 or 3 years and not have an issue, but we could have recurring issues
Right.
every year where we're down 4 to 6 months and we're losing, you know, the availability for safety and everything else and the equipment that you guys need. And then you're dumping in all the extra money and time and wear and tear into a vehicle that's dying. I mean, I don't have brand new vehicles and I know how it is to nickel and dime something, and eventually you get into the point where it's, are we upside down in this thing, and is it, you know, when's that point? You know, it would be great if we could just order it and have it in 6 months.
Right.
But we gotta wait 2 years, next year could be 3 years, you
So-
know, and we never know.
So currently on the pump that it has, that's my issue. Without a pump, you pretty much, your tanker is just a tender and you really can't use it for much because you have to pump that water off. Yeah, you can dump it. Dump tanks are a thing of the past. You'll hear small towns swear by a dump tank. This area doesn't use them very often. And I'm talking this side of the Kennebec, not the other side of the Kennebec. I've used a dump tank in Fairfield is what I know, because I was there 24 years, maybe 4 times. Most of it we pump off because it's the quicker option because we have no manpower. Volunteers or call people are far in between. However, with this pump right now, it's a 1996. It started out as a 2-stage pump. In other words, you could switch it and you'd get higher flow water. Right now, it's to a point where it's only a single stage, because they can't find parts for it. So,
So you're already halfway down with the truck anyway, basically.
I can pump to capacity at 1,500 gallons per minute, but I'm pushing the threshold on the RPM limit.
Okay.
So,
So it's already injured, basically,
Correct.
to some extent, at its
Correct.
full capacity.
it's at full, I can run it at full capacity, however, it's only gonna take that one something to happen. And something happens all the time.
Thank
So-
you.
Through the chair, I think we've discussed this just about as much as
And-
you could discuss
No more words
anything.
left in it.
What I
Yeah.
would do, what I would recommend at this point in time is, is you've heard our concerns and you've heard our issues and you've heard our recommendations for possible funding for this piece of apparatus.
Mhm.
So what I would do is, I would ask Ella to go back and say, if we were to fund this, what would be the best funding option for the town? And then give us your recommendation, and then at that point in time, we can make a decision on whether we want to get this immediately or wait.
Right. The best funding for this, I can already answer that, it's gonna be leasing. Okay, the lease the vehicle, just like you've done with your ambulances and your other trucks, if that's the choice you guys have decided. I would rather have the council vote on this tonight, so that we can move forward with it, whichever direction we're gonna go.
What's the cost of the lease? What's the cost of the lease?
So we did not, sorry about that.
Nope, go ahead.
Tanya was looking into it and we ran out of time. That was a question that came up. I should have anticipated that, but I thought it would be easier than just, it was a phone call and say, hey, who are we using to lease?
Typical lease runs about 4.5 to 5%.
Yeah, 4 years.
For whatever you wanna have it for years. If you're gonna do it for 4 to 6, you can lease it out for whatever you need. Most of those trucks are leased out for 8 years.
8 years, so if we're, say we're
Your payment's gonna-
900,000 for 8 years,
Yeah.
at 4.5%. It's about $135,000 a year.
That's what you've got for a number on.
134, 127.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This, that was good math, huh?
You cheated, you looked at my numbers.
Hey,
So
I still got it, man.
that, and if you vote on tonight and you decide whichever way, we save that, and I'm just pushing that out there, not trying to be pushy, but we do save that $65,000 to $90,000 if we can get this done by August 1st with the increase. Just throwing it out there.
Well, the capital that we put in capital would pay for that lease. We wouldn't be, for the next 4 years, we wouldn't be we wouldn't be able to put capital in for anything else, and we'd be falling behind
Well,
capital.
we're gonna have to
Right.
put a deposit on the truck
Yeah.
to order it. So
Yeah.
we won't have to pay for anything. We could set up the lease when the truck gets delivered.
Correct.
Oh, Mr. Chairman?
What's
if I
the,
may
what's the
just put my-
deposit? Do
We
we
have
know?
not worked that out yet. We have to make,
Typically
the-
20%.
yeah. So we have to, you guys have to make the decision, then I can move forward and I can sit down with Ella and I can get Kyle from Autotronics up here, and then we can work that all out.
Well, get it together and bring it to the August meeting, right? I mean, even though I know the engine and the emissions and everything is a question, right?
It's not a question, it's a $65,000 to $90,000 jump August 1st.
All you need to do is vote whether we go with it
Or we
or
don't,
we keep the truck that we're driving.
for another 4 years. Well, yeah,
We'll take care of the nitty gritty.
So the
Right.
down payment on that would probably be around 175,000,
We've got the money in the bank.
yeah,
because we have 250 already, right?
correct.
Let's vote. Correct.
Correct, for 2 years. Right, and I can work on, right. Yes, and I can, yeah, we can take the money we get for the truck and put it as a pay, whatever, towards a payment.
I think
They don't,
we said
unfortunately, they don't trade. That's the first thing I ask. What will you take this and trade? And they just look at me like I have 3 heads.
Mr. Chairman, may I finish up then, just for a second? No matter how you look at it, it's gonna cost the town some money. And right now, we just went through the budget process to come up with any kind of money on a consistent basis to add to our debt right now, with the budgets we have, is not responsible management, I don't believe. We've got another year or two to go, where I think this town is gonna make a change and the financial situation is gonna be better. If you were to come to us 2 years from now and do this whole thing, you got a lot better chance. My opinion, for my vote anyway. I don't know how the others think. But the timing isn't right with what this town has right now and what we're doing. So no matter how you look at it, it's gonna cost us money right now, and we don't have that money right now. Taking fund balance rate. You know the game there. We're not in that situation right now to do it. I feel a hell of a lot more confident, even a year from now or 2 years from now, when we get all of these programs now rolled up and all going strong, and then we can focus on new things. And that tanker's being one of them. And I have the utmost confidence that you guys can keep that thing running for another year or two.
We'll give it our best shot, but I can't make any
do it.
promises on that. And I don't mean,
Oh,
you
there's
know,
no
sabotage
promises.
it, but.
The
but-
big ladder truck could break down tomorrow
Right,
and blow a motor. Who do we,
right,
how do we
right,
know?
exactly,
How do we know?
Right.
The tanker truck might blow up tomorrow, and it may
Right.
last another 2 or 3 years.
right,
Who knows?
right.
But I think we're better off with the financial situation this town is in right now
Right.
to not incur any more debt right now.
Do you have a spec sheet for this, Mike? Or is this it?
What's that?
Is there a spec sheet that goes with this?
Yes, you all have gotten the spec sheets for this truck multiple times. This same truck, all these 3 trucks, you have gotten them when asked. They've all been emailed to everybody back when I took over and we were talking about the tanker.
Didn't this start way back?
This started 2 years ago when Scott Baldick was deputy chief and
I think-
Mr. Drapo was the
I
chair.
think the can's been kicked.
I was gonna steal Ray's.
Well, back
saying
then too,
too.
when the first thing that came to the council
Mhm.
was a 1.4 million.
Correct, and I've beat it down to,
Only one quote.
right.
You didn't have 2 or 3, you had
That,
one for
again,
1.4.
I have multiple quotes,
And this is the second quote that I think I'm aware of that's come back to the council after that 1.4.
I know I've sent multiple,
Yeah, he looked at, I think you had like 10 quotes. at one point.
yeah, and we've,
But to bring to the council for another number under that 1.4.
correct.
To the council, this is the next number we had after the 1.4.
I don't think so, because I've sent you more than, correct.
So this is a better deal than you did when,
So
council
the,
was there.
so I can tell you right now, without beating this, so this quote from Allegiance, he did not get me one today. It's $1 million. That is the same truck we talked about after cutting a bunch of stuff on the truck. However, the price now was $1.4 million. The first price you guys got was a 1.2, and it's gone up $200,000 in 2 years for that tanker, I believe. I don't have the original 1 point or whatever it was, 1.2 or 1, it's now 1.4. Yeah, was it? Okay. So it's up there. It's over 1 point, it would be close to 1.5 now for that truck. And I've cut it down to $876,000.
Worked hard on it.
That's given us the best bang for the buck and the best company that's offering the best product right now.
I mean, Al, through the chair, Ella, this is just a discussion item. I didn't think we voted on discussion items.
We want to get some direction on how to move forward on this.
Correct.
I don't care if you do a straw poll. I don't care if you just raise your hand, say, order it, or whatever, and we'll get you the paperwork. We just, if we're not gonna do this thing, then we're not gonna do it. If we are, then I need direction from the council.
And just to interject, there was a question at the beginning of the meeting about interfacility transfers. What we've been trying to do is we've been taking one thing at a time. We went with the union contract, that's done now. We're working on the tank, and the next thing's gonna be, we're both gonna hit the interfacility transfers. Every aspect we can look at and bring that to you, so that's why we're doing it in steps. So this is the second step, and I think that's why we're.
Trying to shovel the stuff off our plate as fast as we can. You guys know how you feel about it. Just let us know so we know how to move forward.
Right. I just don't wanna see another $65,000 to $90,000 added if we keep tabling it. It keeps
Minimum.
the price keeps going up
So-
every time we table something for
Yeah.
a month.
That's a typical salesman's deal. Buy it now, because the price is going up. Every salesman in this country will tell you that.
But this isn't a sales pitch. This is an EPA issue with engines that we won't be able to find the right, correct
So
ones.
I guess we're gonna, let's just, I think let's make, I make a motion at this point in time that we, find whatever way we can to lease the vehicle, just as, so that we can lock in a price. That's what I'm recommending at this point in time.
So lock in a price to buy or just lock into a price?
To lease.
Correct.
To lease,
Okay.
because we
Lease to
can't afford
purchase.
anything else.
Okay.
And then, you know,
Are the payments gonna be the same as the lease, though?
They may even be.
Lower.
They may even be lower, because I believe the engine
Yeah.
was 850,000 or something like that.
It's a municipal lease to own
yeah.
program. So it sounds much like a loan. You go and borrow your money and then you own it afterwards. The lease to own for municipalities is the same type.
It's 4 years, so be about 4 years. So.
Yeah.
And that's like she said, lease to own.
Yep,
Something
lease
that
to
you're
own,
paying
we'll put
into
the
it and then you can-
$250 down,
Yeah.
$250 down, try to reduce the price, and then lease the vehicle.
And would they be able to lease the vehicle that they're asking for the cheaper amount of money, or are we locked into different fire
If we
trucks
can get
or-
this locked in right off before the price increase, we're locked into that price.
Okay, even through the lease?
Yes.
Okay.
So the lease to loan, I'm sorry,
Well-
through the chair, so the lease to loan,
Lease
that
to
we'd
own.
have,
To lease to own.
Lease to
oh,
own.
okay.
Lease
So
to
that would
own.
be paid off, and is this correct, at 2029 to 2030?
Yes.
It'd be paid off? Okay.
Roughly.
We'll make that determination.
Right.
Because I want to fit the
Okay.
price into the budget.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
So is that something, through the chair, is that something you guys are willing to go along with, or something that you think is acceptable? That
Absolutely,
Gonna
because that
do-
would lock us into that price, and then I can call them and say, let's come down and meet with Ella, myself, and Director McDade, and get this ball rolling, so we can order this truck right off and get it here as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Now what we do?
Vote on it,
The
or
motion,
do we-
you vote on it.
Well, the motion's out there.
A second, a second.
So it just would be a show, Ella wants to know a direction that we wanna go, right? So,
Right.
so we have to say what direction we wanna go. I would,
You make that motion, Ray, and I'll make the motion that I'll move that we stay the same. That we don't finance
Well,
it,
let's
we don't
vote
buy
on
it this year.
There's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor.
And I seconded,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's
So
what
that
we're
has to be
voting
voted
on.
on first, right?
I'm not saying how I'm
Yes.
gonna vote, I'm just making the motion.
No.
Yeah.
Because that's just, you know what I mean?
Right, I'm just saying it has to be voted before the second motion gets sent, right?
Are we doing a roll call vote for this?
Yeah.
I have no order. I
There's
have
no
just
order,
a
there's
motion to look into the cost of a lease to own, to lock in the price.
And we're
Is
saying
that lease to
go
own
ahead
or
and
lease to
do it.
purchase?
This one is
It
to
would,
go
this
ahead.
would, okay.
And then you're gonna bring those numbers back to us at our next council meeting?
Either that, or I'll just email them out to you for your FYI.
So we're voting to move
Is this
forward.
gonna work, or is you got something to say, Bill?
Well, whatever you say here tonight, you darn well better stand on it if it's going to be done officially later. The other thing you could do, if you want to make it official tonight, since it's not on the agenda, you could move to waive the rules of cloture to consider a resolution. It takes 2/3 vote.
Do you have to have public hearing or no?
No. No. You have, it's already, it's on as a discussion, but if you want to make this official and do it formally, do a motion to waive cloture to consider a lease to own of the, however you want to identify the truck. The
And
new
you need
tanker
how
truck.
many for the vote, you said?
Excuse me?
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
Yeah, it takes 2/3. So,
Two-thirds to get it on the agenda.
Right.
on tonight's agenda.
Yeah, so you're basically suspending the rules.
Oh, okay,
You can suspend the rules on a 2/3 vote, and that's
Right.
what you'd be doing.
good, let's do that.
And if you're gonna do that, then Ray would need to withdraw his motion, because you're then gonna be doing it officially, as opposed to just sort of a head nod.
But if we do it Ray's way, and we take an informal vote right now, that's authorizing Ella to come to the council next meeting, or through emails, or to the next council meeting with the facts and figures.
We're trying to just move forward with it, aren't we? Voting to move forward,
Again,
let them go do
The
it.
easiest way is Ray's way.
If I might through the chair, if you lock it in, you say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, Ella gets the figures, brings it to the next meeting. At that point in time, we could have a resolution, we could have a resolution to either approve or not approve at that time. Can you lock it in without say?
I don't think I can lock it in without
Approval from the
saying
council.
that we wanna buy it.
Okay.
That's what I'm
We have to
talking,
put the-
that's what we're saying. We
ink on the
can't, I
paper here.
can't say, hey,
Okay,
we lock it in at
because-
this price and hope we buy it next month.
Well,
do it,
it's
Bill.
just a month, it's just a month period.
I mean,
Can't lock in a price without permission to buy
Right.
it, right?
I don't think any finance company will say, yeah, we'll do it, but then,
Can we put
That makes my
that
choice
microphone
pretty
back,
easy.
oh,
please?
sorry.
I think Bill has something.
Through
he'd like
the
to
chair,
say.
just, it strikes me that you need to do this in a formal fashion. You can't be, well, we're gonna tentatively give you approval, but we might change our mind next month. I'm hearing very clearly that doesn't work, and that's really not the way we should do, doing
No.
things.
No,
Absolutely
you're right.
agree.
So,
Like he said, let's do that.
to take a motion, if you wanna have an official vote as to whether or not you're gonna go forward on this, you need a motion to suspend the rules, waive cloture is what it's more formally called, to consider a resolution to lease, purchase a new tanker
Bumper
truck.
tanker, yeah.
A motion to waive closure, is that what you said? I'll do that motion.
I'll second it.
That takes a 2/3 vote on that.
That is correct.
Okay, so, is Ray's,
Are you withdrawing your
Motion.
motion?
Yes.
I'll withdraw,
Yeah, 'cause
recant.
that needs to be done.
Don't feel like you have to, Ray.
okay. So, now we have a motion to waive the rules of cloture to consider a lease to own on the new pumper tanker truck. Fran has requested that motion and Mike has seconded it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just to get it on the agenda to make
Right,
it
correct.
official.
So Mike Joseph,
Yes.
Dale Macklin,
No?
Fran Hudson,
Yes,
Ray Karen,
No.
Adam Lint,
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
No.
That was a no.
No.
And Jeff West.
Yes.
So it's 4-3.
Didn't make it.
It
Failed.
fails.
that was just to put it on the agenda, for goodness sakes.
Okay.
So what do you do now? Leave them
Well,
standing?
what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get all these hard numbers for you. We'll come up with a resolution and figure out which direction we're to go with it.
Yeah.
We'll probably draft up 2 resolutions, one to purchase and one,
Can you get an emergency meeting so it's done before the August deadline?
You can have a special council meeting.
yeah, we
Right.
can
Yeah.
do
So
that.
can we call that, please, and get the
Yeah.
numbers before the August
Yeah.
deadline?
I will
Yeah.
start that tomorrow.
I'd hate to spend $60,000 to $90,000 more because we missed it by a week or
Yeah.
2.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry to take so much time.
Okay, on to the event center. Ella Bowman and Garrett.
Okay, so we're gonna try to get this one through as fast as we can because I'm exhausted and I'm sure everybody else is too. So back, I think it was September, we voted to change the zoning for our rural district to allow for event centers. We have subsequently learned that the process that we had technical errors. We didn't do the advertising correctly. So we started back from ground zero. We held a public hearing at the last meeting. Our planning board has gathered. They revisited this option, and you have a copy of the planning board's letter where they voted ought not to pass. We didn't have a good experience with this last episode, so we need to know which direction the council wants to move forward with this. Do you want to see this continue in the direction of having an event center in the rural zone, or would you rather eliminate it altogether, at least for the time being?
Well, I personally would like to see it come back. Just because it wasn't gonna work in one spot doesn't mean it won't work in the rest of the rural district.
Okay.
Or somewhere else in the rural district. That's just my opinion.
Okay, so what I would rather do, I guess this time, is just kind of go around the room and listen to everybody's opinion on it. Adam, where are you on this?
If the size of the area, the lots were a lot bigger and neighbors weren't being bothered, I would consider it, but the way it stands, I would have to say no.
Okay. Fran, where are you on this?
Because the planning board voted 5-1 no, because it doesn't fit the comprehensive plan we just spoke about, I would vote no.
Okay, Ray, where are you on this?
I would vote no.
Dale?
I'd vote yes.
Joe?
I'd vote no.
Okay. Lee, have you got any comments on this?
I personally don't think that particular location is adequately strategically built for that area, so I would have to say no, but I would like to be open to a possibility of maybe some other location.
Okay. So that gives us some direction for the next meeting. We're gonna do this officially at the next meeting. All I wanted was some type of straw poll to find out what the gist of the council was on this. Gary, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Yes, I do. But I'm not going to take all the time that it would take for me to go through everything. I've spoken about this before. We're talking about that whole district, the rural district, which is 20% of the town of Winslow. If you want to put event centers in a rural area, and it's going to encroach on other people who are living in that rural area for the benefits of being in rural, that's what you're considering. It's not you're not considering Fred and Danielle. You're considering the whole zone. I could read to you all kinds of things, and if you want to come back next month and discuss this again, or have a meeting with the planning board as an informative type of thing, I think that would be worthwhile. But the board has not recommended this in the rural zone. It has nothing to do essentially with just Danielle and Fred. It's about the entire zone. Any question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Gary,
Gary.
have you got anything being the code enforcement officer that you would like to add to this?
Just a couple key points, nothing really too much onto this, but just kind of familiarize yourself with what this means for ordinances. So a conditional use does not mean that anybody can walk in and run an event venue. We, as a planning board and code officers, we can set conditions that every one of your butters has to vouch that this is a yes. Or you have to have X amount of acreage to have it, or da-da-da-da-da. So I just want to pretty much just introduce to you guys what conditional use really means. And it's something that you have to go in front of a board. We have conditions that set upon that, and that's what a conditional use is. And that's pretty much all I really wanted to say, just let you guys know what a conditional use is.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Through the chair, I just have one comment to that. These events venues causes horror stories in communities. I mean, the added traffic on roads, complaints from neighbors, all the stuff that they bring are hard. They're usually a high usage of resources. People get upset with them. They call the police department. The police officers have to respond. They have to respond, and it causes hate and discontent. One that I experienced was Winslow had their graduation party over an event center in the past town that I worked at. And they called the cops, the neighbors did, they shut the party down, and I was getting calls from Winslow residents that were so upset with me. So just know that this brings baggage if we decide to go down this path.
I will add one more comment, if I may. The rural district is designed for rural activity. It's not designed for business activity. While you can have businesses in those areas, they must, like Garrett just said, they must meet certain requirements. But the requirements of our code list it pretty clearly. The goal of the rural district is to preserve and encourage existing open space, agriculture, forestry, resource-based activities, and at the same time allowing very low density residential and some limited commercial development. The commercial development may be a business that is operated on a weekly basis that doesn't impact those things just mentioned. The proposed development that might create negative traffic impacts, the environmental damage, loss of farmland, increased traffic, suburban land use, and loss of rural character shall not be permitted in this district. That is your code. It's laid out pretty clearly. It's also laid out pretty clearly in the comprehensive plan. In the comprehensive plan, the rural area, it says, the balance of the land in the town as designated as a rural area. This area is intended for agriculture. This is comprehensive plan now. This is not the code that I just mentioned. Is intended for agriculture, animal husbandry, forestry, outdoor recreation, natural resource-based activities such as lumber yards, sawmills, agricultural-based activities, which will be encouraged. Again, the comprehensive plan addresses the needs of and the ideas of a rural district. It doesn't incorporate the type of activity that an event center would provide or give to local people who live there. It's difficult at best to argue that you don't want to add a business in an area. But at the same time, your code and your comprehensive plan says just what I read. You can make your own decision from that. That's why the code is there for the planning board to use and for the council to enforce. Thank you.
Do we have options to use, like the Fort Halifax and stuff like that, for an event center? To bring it from the rural area in town, so we could still possibly use what we already have to make more revenue or make some sort of anything out of
You're
that?
talking about town property?
Yeah, like the Fort Halifax or anything like that to
I
rent
don't
it
see
out.
that as being an option. You're talking private enterprise, you're competing as a town against that. So we'll be voting on that next month.
Okay, on to adding alternate members to the finance committee. Ella and Katie.
Katie, would you like to address that?
So this is fairly straightforward. Right now, we have a finance committee comprised of 4 council members and 1 alternate, and one of those council members is Lee. So right now, I need the 4 other people to be able to come in every week, and obviously with schedule differences, sometimes that's not possible. So I'm just proposing that we add Adam and Jeff as extra alternates, just that we have other options when somebody is unable to come in. So we would still have the 4 people who did volunteer as the main people, but if you're unable to come in some week, you can just let me know and I'll give the other people a call.
Why don't we just make it any counselor?
Or that.
That's what I would
Yeah.
recommend.
Yeah.
you know, have your four key people, but if they can't do it, you can pick from the other three, any way you, or any of the other three that can come in.
Right. Just let us sign twice.
Well, I don't think I can do that.
Sounds good, sounds good.
Perfect.
Sounds good, everybody.
Thank you.
Does that have to be put in a resolution now for the auditors?
We can take care of that.
I think we add them, we do that as a vote in the very first meeting, so.
Yep.
Okay, on to public comment.
Through the chair, I have something to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do that before I read my statement, or?
Well, go ahead, read your statement.
Any person wishing to verbally address the council on any matter before it may do so, providing permission is first obtained from the council chair. Each person addressing the council shall stand and give the person's name and address in an audible tone of voice for the record, and shall limit remarks to the time allotted by the council chair. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No person other than the council and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a counselor, without the permission of the council chair. No question shall be asked a counselor except through the council chair. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council, shall be forthwith, by the council chair, barred from further audience before the council, unless permission to continue is granted by the majority vote of the council. And the time limit is 3 minutes.
Mike, did you want to go?
Yep, I will. Thank you, through the chair. I want to thank everybody for voting, this past voting. Nobody wins, nobody loses on that, but at least we have the public to express their views and their opinions on it. And I urge you people to keep voting. Don't give up that. I think that's a great thing. You know, I think we've lost a lot in this country in the last several years. You know, I think the parties have been divided because they don't have the same views as the other. I think the parties is a big problem. You know, when we had 9/11, when they had that, the people that went to save these people that were trapped in there, they didn't ask them if they were a Democrat or Republican or an independent. They pulled them out of there because they were a U.S. citizen, because they were Americans. You know, and this is the other thing. As a counselor, you know, we're here to voice your issues. We are only the person that's actually giving you the questions that you have asked us. We're only the ones that give that out for the people. That's why we were elected. In the past, I've tried to get along. And then in December of 2023, after the election, town manager Fran, Mike Murphy, Leonard McDade, and Randy Wing, and we spoke about transfers with our 3rd ambulance. We needed to meet again, hoping before we took our oath of office on January 2nd. Thinking we could not get a meeting in before January 2nd. That was fine. Then I received a call from council member Fran a few days before the meeting and asked me if I was notified of the meeting. I said no, I was not notified. And then called Leonard McDade and asked what was going on. And Leonard said, you have to call Ella, the town manager. I said, I would, but I don't have her cell phone number. So Lenny gave me her cell phone number. And Lenny gave me Ella's, and from there I asked her what the hell was going on and asked her if she was trying to undermine me and not asking me or even telling me that we're having a meeting. I wanted the reason why she left me out, the meeting. It was because I was left out because the meeting wasn't really about transfers or about the stretcher or the chair that we had actually talked about in our first meeting for the ambulance. This meeting consists of the people that was only going to be about regionalization of ambulances. And I know we're going to have to probably go to regionalization sooner or later. But in the future, but now, not now, in the meeting, I was speaking to Sean Essler, fire chief, of Waterville. We did not have time to finish asking the questions of transfers, so I asked Sean and
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna
Brian.
call a point of order on this. This.
Point of order. I have to go.
Public comment is supposed to be public comment from the public, and it's supposed to be on issues that deal with the town. And if you think you're gonna go and rehash everything that's happened with you and the town manager or anybody else for the last 6 months.
Point of order.
Then that is not
He needs to claim an order.
for
He just
public comment.
I do have the floor, don't I?
I asked for a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and the point of order needs to be voted on.
I'll just say, in the past, other people have spoke when they wanted to, and nobody disrupted them. I was one of them. Nobody stopped me. Nobody has stopped you, and nobody has stopped the
I
chair.
have never asked.
Why
to
is he
talk
not
during
going to be
public
afforded
comment.
that same
I've never
courtesy?
asked to talk during public comment.
He was given the
Never.
floor, so let's vote on the
Never.
point of order.
Vote for it.
Okay.
Well,
Mike-
Mr. Chairman, what's your ruling first, then we'll vote on your ruling.
He just said we have to do a vote on the point of order.
On his decision. If he wants, he's either gotta uphold my point of order or not. That's what's voted on.
It is public comment. Mike did ask me if he could speak before public comment, or as public comment started. I gave him the okay to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it.
So anyways, this was supposed to recognize the ambulances we have for transfers. I know the agenda was, the regionalization was gonna probably happen anyways. I spoke to Sean Essler, Fire Chief of Waterville. We did not have the time to finish asking about this. So then I had asked Sean and Brian, Town Manager of Waterville, if we could meet and finish the conversation. Sean and Mike Post, Brian, said most definitely. Sean later called and he said he would like to extend the conversation with Ella and asked me if I would ask Ella. And I said I really could care less, where she left me out in the meeting to begin with. So then I was accused of lying. But then I told Fran about the meeting and told her she could call Ella about the meeting. Ella then said she could not make it. On that day, she was selected, so the date was changed for her convenience. So she then told a council member about the meeting, but failed to tell council as it was for inquiry only. I was actually asked if who was lying between Fran and I. There was no lie, because it was all about inquiry. It wasn't about discussing business. And I'm a little perturbed about that. It seems like since I've been here, I don't have any problem if somebody is against what I bring up for the public. But when you start taking and you start attacking my character just for the fact, because somebody's ticked off because I won on the election, it really bugs me. And you know what? There's going to be serious repercussions if this continues. And again, after the election, the day of the election, I have been on the newspaper, and it really ticks me off that the newspaper never even asked me for my side of the story and just publicized it. That frustrates the heck out of me. So what happened, we had Channel 7, Fox News, called us up and asked for our side of the story. I'm there, why? I said, are you part of the Morning Sentinel? They said, no, absolutely not. I said, then why do you want an interview with us? And he says, because we know that you didn't have the other side of the story, was told on that paper. I said, yes, I will tell it. So he wound up doing an interview. But you know what? This is bullcrap. I mean, I'm tired of it, and I don't mind fighting for the people. They bring me the issues, I'll bring it up. But I am tired of having somebody always trying to put us down, and we could do a heck of a lot more work in this council than what we have already. We've accomplished a lot with this council. But the thing is, it takes the whole council. But if we keep getting put down, I will not tolerate it anymore. Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Hi, Bruce Lambrick, Abbott Road. I'd just like to say, lived on the Abbott Road for 26 years. Have always appreciated the rural character that we have. And I'd like to thank Gary Owens and the Planning Board Committee for reiterating all the various points, as well as the Code Enforcement Officer Garrett pointing out that why it'd be such a bad idea to allow an event center or anything like that in the rural district. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Hillary Lambrecht. I'm also from Abbott Road. 26 years ago, we were looking to buy a house in the area. We could have chosen a number of communities. We chose Winslow. We looked within Winslow. We chose the rural district because we wanted to be close to nature, have open space, low traffic, quiet, a good place to raise our sons. And it's been great. It's the kind of environment that we want to preserve for future families that want to come to Winslow. So I'm really concerned that if we start putting things like an event center in the rural district, it's going to completely change the character of the district. And I do appreciate the planning board and Gary Owen coming in and reading the comprehensive plan that you all just agreed to accept 7-0. If you read that description of what the rural district is, an event center does not belong in that district. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Doris LaBranche. I live on Getchell Lane. I have several questions. Garrett has offered to take care of question number 1 for me. I have printed them out, so I plan to pass them out to each council member. My first question is, at the April 29th Town Council meeting, the town manager stated the following. It's the town manager's job to bring new jobs into the equation to help offset the cost of rising goods. It's the town manager's job to make Winslow a place to live. It's the town manager's job to bring in new development. And it's, she needs the Winslow residents to trust her. So my question to the town manager, Ella, is what are you doing to bring new jobs and to bring new development to Winslow? My second question is regarding Chavey Brook and Sunset Heights. What has the town manager done financially to prepare the town for these projects and its financial impact on residents in order to avoid raising the mill rate again? And my third question is, at the April 29th Town Council meeting, the town manager stated, fund equity is a tool in order to justify taking $463,000 out of the town's rainy day fund to help pay for the 6 positions at the elementary school. I've recently been informed that in addition to the $463,000 taken out of the rainy day fund, an additional $350,000 was taken out of the school's rainy day fund to help balance the budget, making that a total of $813,000 taken out. My question is to the town manager, what is the plan to replenish the rainy day fund for both our town and the school, and do you have a plan in place? Tonight we talked about the $6 million bond for Chafee Brook. That bond needs to be paid back, $813,000 for the school and $876,000 for the fire department. That brings a total of $7,689,000 that we do need to pay back. So I'd like to know what the plan is to pay that back. And I'd like to see a plan that doesn't raise our mill rate up again. Thank you.
Through the chair, I might be able to help Ella in answering that question as far as where the businesses are. There was a comprehension plan put in place way before, I think it was in 2009, I believe. And all the businesses were supposed to be, Ray, you could probably give me some of that information. All the businesses are supposed to be located actually on the Augusta Road and Benton Avenue, because we have the surge on Benton Avenue. We also have property on Benton Avenue, is that correct? We have property over there that we could sell, because I know in the past.
I don't believe so.
We don't? Well, I know in the past, when Scott Paper left, we had Sappy that came in here, and we missed that opportunity. Sappy wanted to open up in here, and apparently the council said they didn't want that to, having that stink, that smell. And then, of course, we've also passed up on B&A, which was the Bank of America that opened up in Belfast. They were ready to start in right across from Big G's. And they were gonna start there. They had 2 lawyers that came to the town office and asked, hey, we wanna start now. So these places here, we gave up and that, of course, that employed 600 to 800 people. We gave that up. But most of our businesses are supposed to be on the Augusta Road and Benton Avenue, because we don't have a main street. That's where most of the businesses. As far as the rest of the stuff, I'm not sure. Is that true, Ray?
Which part about Sappy?
As far, no, not just Sappy, I'm talking about any business that we were gonna, as far as industrial, would be on Benton Avenue and the Augusta Road.
Well, the comprehensive plan stated those 2 areas, that the Augusta Road, China Road, and Benton Avenue would be prime for industrial development.
Only up to how far, because we only have the storage up to Mile Brook on the China Road.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
Because they couldn't get it up over the hill.
yeah, there is some infrastructure problems at each one of those
Right.
locations. Obviously, Crow Rope and Johnny Selected Seeds, they didn't have.
Didn't have that
They have
problem.
water, I believe, but they don't have sewage. And then the Augusta, so I'm not sure specifically, those industrial areas. We were not able, because of the cost of putting in
Putting the sewage.
infrastructure, to be able to do those things, unfortunately.
So I hope that answered part of that.
Infrastructure is in some of those areas where the dips and the
Yeah.
things and the bends in the road and the pump stations and a whole bunch of issues that we've had up there. I think the industrial park has been very successful, but there's low water usage, and obviously they could
And
put
we
in.
looked into that a few years ago.
We did, we
And it
have
was-
been, and it was extremely expensive to
Yeah,
put that type
because
of
of the
stuff
ledge.
in.
All the ledge that we have in the
Well,
hills.
it's just infrastructure wise was,
Wasn't it like $400,000 or something like
yeah,
that?
and for.
Just to get it to the industrial park.
Yeah, and we had, it's 80% full, 90% full, so there was
Yeah.
a lot of issues with environmental issues too, and all that type of stuff there, so.
I
It was
hope that
very
helped
difficult
answer some of
for
that.
new businesses to come in up there that are water usage businesses, so businesses there are tailored for low usage, low sewage.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak?
I'll make this brief, because I know everybody wants to get out of here. Scott Holtz on the Cushman Road. I just want to speak a little bit about the tanker that Mike Murphy was talking, Chief Murphy. Back in the 90s, I was on the committee that has this tanker that we have right now. The reason why this tanker was bought with 3,000 gallons is because we have a rural area. And those people need to be protected just as much as people within the hydrant system. Now, Winslow had a call the other morning. Absolutely perfect job. They did an awesome job of getting there in quick time because we have full-time staff. They put the fire out. They did call mutual aid, but ended up not using them. Now, we have a fire out in the outskirts of town. It's the first thing we want to do is call for mutual aid. But who do we have? We have volunteers. I'm not knocking volunteers because Vassarboro, Albion, China, those guys are awesome in getting in their trucks as fast as they can. But in the meantime, we have to have something for the people on the outskirts of town. If our engine 7 goes down, and Ray mentioned it, is this pumper going to help us? This tanker pumper that we have now, it may break down. We'll have just the tower, or I'm so used to Waterville, the ladder truck to do our pumping for us. So I would take in consideration that down the road, there is talk about regionalization, and I think it is a good thing to look at. There's no doubt about it. But until we get there, we need to protect the people on the outskirts of town beyond the hydrant system. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I hate to say it, but. Oh, okay, whoops, sorry, I was gonna make a motion to adjourn you.
Yeah, sorry, just
Yeah, yeah,
a really
yeah.
quick comment. So Steve Susi, Sam Street, Winslow. So I just find it really ironic with the comments coming from some of the town councilors fighting against a pumper truck that is needed for life-saving measures in our town, in our rural areas where it's really needed, using the same arguments that were just recently used a month ago regarding the school budget. So for town councilors to sit there and use, the same argument that we used a month ago, arguing the school budget, Mr. Macklin, I find it appalling that you're going to argue the same points a month later for needs for our fire service when we were arguing the same thing last month for supposed needs for the school district. And I would note, and I encourage people to go back and listen to the notes from the last, I think it was the June 10th, right before the vote. I brought up points from the Maine Department of Education data warehouse, and I brought up some statistics and some numbers about the school district and how things haven't been reported. There's no reports of violence for like 5 years. And the school superintendent reported those numbers are not there because of the things that we've implemented and instituted in our school already, and that's why we don't have problems. But if that's the case, why did the school staff spend an hour and a half talking about the behavioral crisis in the school? So those are just some notes and some points, and to sit there and go through those numbers and those arguments for the past couple of months about people's needs and important issues in the town that need to be addressed and financed, and to have you sit there and bring up those same arguments, I thought was really ironic, and I'm kind of disappointed. So thank you for the time.
Mr. Chairman, may I? I did not once state that we don't have a need for a tanker truck. I never said that. We have a need for a tanker truck. We can, in my opinion, delay that need and be well-equipped in the next 2 or 3 years to be able to handle any safety issues that may come up because of that tanker truck. That tanker truck can be repaired. Mr. Holtz just gave a great comment on compliment to our mutual aid system, and that will happen, and it has in the past. Mutual aid has not done any bad things for us in a long time. They're a great outfit, and I have confidence that mutual aid will protect the town of Winslow. No doubt in my mind. And that tanker truck that we have now is on the road tomorrow if they get a call tomorrow. They break down, but mutual aid's gonna be right behind them. So to say that I don't care about the safety of our citizens because I voted not to get the tanker truck right now, comparing that tanker truck to the safety of our kids doesn't even come close. That's all I have, Mr.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Okay, I do need all the